The daughter of a chaebol chairman was bullied to death. Yet, at the press conference, the chairman personally announced his forgiveness of the perpetrators, and even publicly pleaded with the judge for a lighter sentence. The news sent shockwaves across the internet. Everyone denounced him as cold-blooded and heartless, saying he was utterly unfit to be a father, even speculating that the girl might not have been his biological daughter. But in truth, it was all an act. My daughter's lips were burned with cigarette butts, she was forced to crawl with a dog leash around her neck, and even had naked photos taken of her to threaten her into silence. In the end, she broke down and jumped to her death. Yet the perpetrators were merely sent to a juvenile detention center. In just a few years, they'd be out living comfortably again. Why should my hyena suffer so much? I'll make sure they pay 1,000 times over for what they did. For this, the chairman deliberately adopted a mentally ill girl. She was an experimental subject who had escaped from the Northern Peninsula. Tests revealed that Yoon Karma suffered from explosive psychosis. She had a particular fondness for blood and the sound of screaming. But what thrilled her most was seeing the look on people's faces right as they lost consciousness. Soon, Yoon Karma was transferred into the class of one of the bullies. The moment she appeared, she was welcomed for being a defector from the north and for her striking beauty. This made the bespectacled girl nearby unusually envious. She'd been bullied by Song Yoon Jin for a long time. Song Yoon Jin had forced her to drink milk that was over a month past its expiration date, adding all sorts of disgusting things to it. If she refused to drink, Song Yoon Jin would threaten her with a pair of scissors. Forced to comply, the bespectacled girl drank until she vomited. Just then, the teacher entered the room, and Song Yoon Jin hastily ordered the bespectacled girl to hide the milk, threatening that if she dared to snitch, her naked photos would be spread online. At the podium, the teacher was introducing the new transfer student, Yoon Karma. Song Yoon Jin and her cronies exchanged meaningful smiles. Meanwhile, Yoon Karma had already locked eyes on her target. Sure enough, as soon as the teacher left, Song Yoon Jin rushed over to Yoon Karma, enthusiastically inviting her to a gathering. The new girl, Yoon Karma, agreed without hesitation, and upon hearing that, Song Yoon Jin gleefully embraced her, acting cutesy, then immediately invited her to join in bullying the bespectacled girl. With a snap of her fingers, her two lackeys appeared behind the bespectacled girl, swiftly pulling a plastic bag over her head, ordering her to walk forward with her eyes closed, not to touch any desks, or else she'd have to endure their lesson of love. Before the bespectacled girl could say a word, she was shoved out. Trembling, she shuffled forward in tiny steps, but still couldn't avoid bumping into the edge of a desk. Song Yoon Jin, who'd been waiting, leapt up and delivered a flying kick, sending the bespectacled girl crashing into the table with a scream. Song Yoon Jin rushed over to land another vicious kick, while the two lackeys gleefully snapped photos to commemorate the moment. The class president glared but held back, but Song Yoon Jin grabbed the bespectacled girl and invited Karma to join in. Unable to bear it any longer, the class president was about to stand up and intervene. Unexpectedly, Karma suddenly rushed forward to stop her, even demanding that Song Yoon Jin apologize immediately. Hearing this, Song Yoon Jin shoved the girl with glasses aside in anger, shouting that she was the real boss here. But Karma simply and calmly said she was going to tell the teacher. Song Yoon Jin burst out laughing at that, and kicked Karma hard in the stomach. To everyone's surprise, Karma just clutched her belly, looking strangely excited. You know how long I've waited for this kick? According to her stepfather's revenge plan, Karma had to play the innocent victim first, so she could send Song Yoon Jin straight to hell. But Karma had undergone an experiment as a child, damaging her frontal lobe, leaving her without any sense of pain or shame, and instead, with a strange craving for violence. Her stepfather told her to hold back for a week before making her move. But stepfather, what if I can't hold back? What if? You have to take a beating in front of everyone first. At that moment, completely numb to pain, Karma clutched her belly, trembling with excitement. I just got hit. Before Song Yoon Jin could react, the PE teacher suddenly announced that the next period would be gym class, and told everyone to change into their sports uniforms. During gym, Song Yoon Jin used the girl with glasses as a chair and smoked secretly in the corner. Suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps approached, and all three of them panicked at once, but to their surprise, it was only the class president coming in. The girl with glasses cast her a desperate look, but the class president simply took the cigarette and started smoking as well. It turned out she was also part of the bullying clique, and she had a hand in the company heiress's death. She just liked to play the good girl in front of others, only showing her true colors in private. She was actually the one pulling the strings, and even Song Yoon Jin was wary of her. After finishing her cigarette, the class president walked straight up to the girl with glasses, and stomped down on her hand. If you dare tell the teacher, I'll make sure you don't live to regret it. The girl with glasses quickly screamed and promised not to snitch. Satisfied, the class president lifted her foot, and on her way out, told Song Yoon Jin to deal with Karma, because she thought Karma was becoming an eyesore. Now it was Karma's turn to be tested. She took a single kick, and the soccer ball instantly warped out of shape, thundering toward the goal like a cannonball, leaving everyone dumbfounded. Then Karma took a deep breath, and kicked again at the goalpost. The ball, twisted out of shape, ricocheted to the side, nearly hitting the blonde girl's lackey. The blonde girl was about to explode, but when she looked up, she was startled by the eerie look in Karma's eyes. Song Yoon-jin took it as a provocation, and resolved to teach this girl a lesson. No sooner had gym ended, than Song Yoon-jin eagerly went looking for trouble with Karma. "I want to see you kick another ball, right now. But the ball's not on the ground, how am I supposed to kick it properly?" Song Yoon-jin gritted her teeth in anger, but Karma kept provoking her. "What, are you scared? Always dragging your little minions around, always bringing up your gangster brother. You really are cute when you need others to back you up." Song Yoon-jin was finally enraged and slapped out with her hand, but to her surprise, Karma moved even faster. With one punch, she sent Song Yoon-jin's nose gushing blood, and with a loud crash, Song Yoon-jin dropped to her knees, sparking a chorus of screams. The blood in those screams were like celestial music to Karma's ears. She could no longer restrain her true nature, advancing step by step toward the trembling Song Yoon-jin. "The ball's on the ground now," Karma said as she forcefully stepped onto the soccer ball, grinding it underfoot. Her tone was light as she asked Song Yoon-jin, "Which way would you like me to kick? A spinning ball? Or straight for the head?" At that moment, the blonde girl quietly crept up from behind, preparing to attack, but Karma dodged her with ease. The blonde girl, having put in too much force, stumbled and fell to the ground. Karma scoffed coldly at the sight, then grabbed the blonde girl by the hair. "Seems you're in a hurry to go to hell. Let me help you with that." Amid a shrill, piercing scream, Karma tightly bound the girl with her own hair. Then, still gripping her hair, dragged her forward. "Were you planning to hit me with a chair just now? That's not what tables and chairs are for. Watch carefully, this is how you're supposed to use them." Before the words had even faded, she slammed the blonde girl's head hard onto the desk. The very next moment, she yanked her up by the hair again, and smashed her head down once more. "Karma, I was wrong, please stop." The blonde girl begged desperately, but Karma paid her no mind. Again and again, she slammed the girl's head into the tabletop. The class monitor turned pale at the sight, and hurried to call the teacher. By now, the blonde girl's face was battered out of shape, and all she could do was gasp out a broken help. Finally, Karma stopped. She lifted her leg and kicked, sending the blonde girl crashing into the desk leg with a resounding bang. Seeing this, Karma's lips curled into a smirk, and she turned to look at the girl with the long black hair. "Now, it's our princess's turn." The girl with long black hair froze, hastily explaining she hadn't done anything. Karma, impatient, said, "Come over here. Don't make me angry." Too frightened to move, the black-haired girl stood rooted to the spot. When Karma saw she wouldn't budge, she simply walked over herself. Panicking, the black-haired girl lost her balance, knocking over a nearby stool, and in that moment, she spotted a utility knife on the floor. She grabbed it and pointed it at Karma, screaming a warning, "Don't come any closer. I'll stab you." Karma just chuckled softly, "Go ahead, try it if you dare." With that, she advanced step by step. Driven by terror, the black-haired girl charged at Karma, shrieking. 1 stab, 2 stabs, 3 stabs, Karma dodged them all with ease. The final strike slashed out viciously, but only cut a few strands of hair. Karma seized the opportunity, grabbing the girl's wrist, twisting it behind her back, pinning her other hand, and with an over-the-shoulder throw, slammed her hard to the ground. The black-haired girl's grip loosened, the knife falling away, and she could only let out a faint whimper. The other students were worried she might not make it. Karma, however, grabbed her by the long hair and lifted her up, listening to the screams and the classmates' anxious murmurs, smiling as she offered reassurance. "Don't worry. I've never beaten anyone to death. People don't die that easily, so stop screaming for nothing." With that, she lifted her head and landed another flying kick. The girl with long black hair crashed straight into the cabinet, her face squished flat against it. She shakily raised her head, a string of blood hanging from her nose, tears streaming down her cheeks. Karma kicked her again, sending the black-haired girl halfway into the cabinet, her arms hanging limply. It was impossible to tell if she was alive or dead. The other students, terrified, cursed Karma for being a lunatic. But Karma just looked proud. "I'm helping the class clean up troublemakers. You cowards ought to thank me. Isn't that right, Yoon-jin?" Song Yoon-jin, who was playing dead on the floor, suddenly twitched. Karma strolled over with a bright, cheerful smile. "How could I let the sidekick be the one to get beaten the worst? Everyone knows the boss is supposed to take responsibility." But when she turned around, she realized Song Yoon-jin had already slipped away. Yoon-jin had crawled quietly to the door, crying out for her brother to save her. When she tried to open the door, she found the back door was already locked. Song Yoon-jin instantly broke down, furiously cursing the students on duty. Just then, Karma crouched into a perfect runner's starting position, and suddenly sprinted forward, launching a kick that blasted the door open. After landing, she grabbed Song Yoon-jin without hesitation. "Didn't you ask if I was good at kicking? What do you think now?" Before Song Yoon-jin could react, Karma punched her again and again, so much so that the students nearby were trembling, their teeth chattering in fear. No one knew how long it went on, when suddenly Karma stopped, her eyes glowing as if she'd seen something breathtaking. "Yoon-jin, you really are beautiful right now." It turned out, what thrilled Karma most was the sight of someone on the verge of losing consciousness. At that moment, the class president arrived with the teacher, finally bringing this farce to an end. Not long after, to everyone's surprise, the bully's mother showed up at the school. But Karma looked perfectly calm, took off her jacket, and revealed a few scars from cigarette burns. Song Yoon-jin was stunned. She didn't remember ever burning Karma with a cigarette. In truth, this was all part of Karma's plan. She had burned herself on her way to school, since she couldn't feel pain at all. Seeing Karma's wicked grin, Song Yoon-jin realized she'd been thoroughly set up. Her mother, meanwhile, was more concerned about why she still hadn't quit smoking. Karma piled on, tearfully recounting how horribly Song Yoon-jin had bullied her. A sudden idea struck Song Yoon-jin, and she retorted, "Do you even know what brand I smoke?" Karma put on an innocent face, "I just came to Korea, how would I know about cigarette brands?" Hearing this, Song Yoon-jin was momentarily lost for words, unable to come up with a single rebuttal. Seeing her daughter at a loss, Song Yoon-jin's mother could only change the subject back to the beating. After all, the two little sidekicks were still lying in the hospital. Just then, the dean got a call from the CEO. Song Yoon-jin's mother snatched the phone, ready to unleash her fury, but the CEO on the other end said calmly, "I'm very busy. My secretary will contact you about compensation." With that, she hung up immediately. Song Yoon-jin's mother was so furious she stomped her feet. Like father, like daughter, after all. She still didn't know who Karma's father was, but she swore she'd make sure Karma never knew peace in this lifetime. The mother and daughter stormed off, but Karma only felt, her stepfather must be absolutely livid. But she wasn't afraid of him. "Just wait, I have even better ways to get my revenge." Meanwhile, the class president had also noticed something off about Karma. She'd thought Karma was just some justice-obsessed country girl, but now it seemed like her real target was Song Yoon-jin all along. She talked about punishing bad behavior, but her reasons sounded more like excuses someone had fed her. There was no way what happened today was just a coincidence. At that moment, Song Yoon-jin walked in and immediately snapped at the class president. "Why did you call the teacher so slowly? With the time you took, you could have called a whole truckload of teachers." The class president propped her chin on her hand, looking relaxed. "But I don't have a truck driver's license, so I can't haul teachers over." Song Yoon-jin was speechless. "I bet you came late on purpose. If Karma saw you bringing the teacher, she'd definitely beat you up. And with your temper, there's no way you'd just take it. By then, the whole school would know what you're really like." The class president was fuming, and threw her book right into Song Yoon-jin's face, then kicked her, sending her flying. That kick was every bit as fierce as Karma's. She said coldly, "So what if I was late on purpose? What are you going to do about it? Don't forget, you've got nothing going for you, not your looks, not your background. The only person you can rely on is that school bully brother of yours. Go run to him and beg for help." Watching Song Yoon-jin slink away, the class president thought of Mr. Lee again. She found it odd. Mr. Lee had been far too calm after his daughter's death. If Karma really was working for Mr. Lee, then maybe today's counterattack from the school bully would force Mr. Lee to show himself. She decided she'd make her move when the time was right. Elsewhere, Song Yoon-jin was even more frustrated. Even her own brother was making fun of her. She had no choice but to act cute and beg the school bully to help her get revenge. But the school bully had no interest, unless the person who hit her was a pretty girl. Song Yoon-jin was furious, so she pulled out a photo of Karma. The school bully's eyes lit up right away. As it turned out, he was one of the bullies targeting the CEO's daughter. Very soon, Karma was surrounded by the bully and his gang. It looked like a round of school bullying was about to start. But unexpectedly, Karma threw a punch and sent the first kid who charged at her flying. The rest of the gang froze, too scared to move. The bully panicked. "There's so many of us. What are you afraid of? Get her." Just then, Karma suddenly dashed toward the wall, and, using her momentum, actually ran along the wall's surface. She shifted her angle, launched herself into the air, and landed a flying knee right into one of them. She grabbed his hair, and unleashed a barrage of iron-fisted punches, raining down like a storm. The rest of the boys just stood there, stunned. But one of the guys, burning with anger, charged forward again. At that moment, a lackey suddenly grabbed Karma from behind, giving the others a chance to gang up on her. But Karma twisted her body, slipping free with ease, and countered with a swift kick. Then she reached out and grabbed hold, making her attacker yelp in pain and let go immediately. But Karma had no intention of letting him off so easily. Instead, her strikes grew even fiercer, not stopping until he collapsed. The lackey from before was scared out of his wits and turned to run. But there was no way Karma would let him escape so easily. With a few sprinting steps, she launched a flying kick, knocking him right in front of the school bully. He immediately begged the bully to save him. But in the next second, Karma kicked again, and the guy passed out on the spot. Now only the school bully was left. Staring at the exhilarated Karma, the bully was completely stunned. At this point, not only Song Yoon-jin was afraid, even the school bully was starting to have second thoughts. Karma saw right through him, sneering, "Thinking of running? Go ahead, try it. I'm really good at games of tag. No matter where you run, I'll catch up and make you pay." The bully's rage instantly drowned out his reason, and he raised his fists, ready to go all out. No one expected the bully's punch to send Karma flying 2 meters away. Though Karma dodged several blows in a row, the bully still caught an opening, landing a heavy punch on her arm and knocking her backward. Karma looked at the bruise forming on her arm, and only grew more excited. Now it's my turn to get serious. Humiliated, the school bully was furious, throwing punch after punch in a wild assault, but Karma dodged them all with ease. Karma caught he at the precise moment of her punch, ready to strike back at his liver, and although the bully managed to block with his arm just in time, the terrifying impact still shot straight through, making the bully stumble back several steps in pain. Even Karma was a bit surprised. She hadn't expected her opponent to block her ambush. The school bully couldn't understand for the life of him how Karma could be so strong. But he quickly grinned. "If this is all you've got, then I'm not worried." Karma looked at him in confusion, wondering what he was smiling about alone. The bully went on, "Actually, I don't think you're as tough as I thought. When I first started running this school, I fought the top dog from the neighboring high school. That guy was 6 feet tall, weighed 230 pounds, and hit even harder than you, but in the end, I still beat him. You're so scrawny, there's no way you're tougher than he was." With that, the bully charged at Karma again, throwing 2 quick punches. To his surprise, he realized he could actually keep up with Karma's speed. Looked like Karma was getting tired. After all, she'd just come through a gauntlet. The bully didn't give her a moment to breathe, draining Karma's strength with relentless attacks. Sure enough, during one dodge, Karma accidentally tripped over a scooter behind her. Seeing Karma's opening, the bully gathered all his strength into his fist and swung with everything he had. But in the next second, he realized Karma had suddenly vanished. Looking up, he saw Karma standing several meters away. Before the school bully could react, Karma's fist was already in his face, a deafening crash. The school bully crashed heavily to the ground. Song Yoon-jin was on the verge of panic. If my brother can't even beat Karma, how am I supposed to survive at school? But after the school bully was helped up, he shoved Song Yoon-jin away in anger. "If you want to fight, do it yourself." Karma, however, looked thrilled. "Didn't expect you to be so tough. It's been ages since I've had such a durable toy. Come on, get up, let's keep going." Yoon-jin's big brother. Though the school bully was furious, he quickly calmed down to think of a strategy. "Fists won't work, but I have a weight advantage. That girl's center of gravity is too high when she fights. If I attack her lower body and throw in some fake punches to distract her, maybe I could turn the tables." With that thought, he feinted a punch, then suddenly grabbed Karma's legs, using his weight and momentum to slam Karma hard to the ground. The next instant, he quickly tightened her grip around Karma's neck. "You brat, you're dead." But unexpectedly, Karma suddenly burst with strength, kicking the school bully's legs, throwing off his balance, and sending his sprawling awkwardly. Karma seized the moment with a beautiful reversal, locking the school bully's thigh in an instant and slamming her down hard. Before the school bully could react, she was completely subdued by Karma's Brazilian jiu-jitsu hold. Karma asked coldly, "You want to go to the ground with me? Are you ready to have your bones broken?" The school bully, terrified, quickly surrendered. But Karma was more excited than ever. "Now I'm going to start using force." With a twist of her hands, the sound of bones breaking mixed with the bully's screams, echoed down the street. Only then did Song Yoon-jin and the others realize how ruthless Karma truly was, and they turned and ran, scared out of their wits. Even the school bully hadn't expected that all the people who usually hung around her would flee at a critical moment. Karma couldn't help but comment, "Song Yoon-jin isn't very loyal, is she? But you're not much better yourself." Just then, a wild idea popped into Karma's mind. "How about I break all your limbs and turn you into a human roly-poly? That would be really fun." The school bully threatened desperately, "Just one arm is fine, but if you cripple me for real, can you take responsibility?" Karma couldn't care less about responsibility, she lived for the thrill of the hunt. After a few more screams, the school bully was left a wreck, lying on the ground with twisted limbs. Karma stared at her, excited, admiring her handiwork like a new creation. Then she delivered a vicious kick to the bully's groin. I heard you've assaulted a lot of girls, and one even jumped off a building because of you. The school bully thought Karma was a friend of one of the victims, here for revenge. But Karma just looked exasperated. I escaped North Korea alone, what friends would I have? This is just for fun. Besides, I've always been curious, why is it that no matter how tough a guy is, one kick to the crotch makes him cry like a baby? I looked it up and found out, balls are basically the male version of ovaries. Crushing them hurts like having your guts ripped out. Now that I've learned something new, I've always wanted to try it. The school bully was so terrified he cried and begged for mercy, but his screams only made Karma more excited. With one tight squeeze, Karma knocked him out cold. The scene was like a demon descending from hell. Meanwhile, Song Yoon-jin and the other two had run out of steam, still puzzled about why the school bully had suddenly gone silent. Stranger still, the wide street was completely deserted, not a soul in sight, nowhere to call for help. Song Yoon-jin said awkwardly, "My brother made some arrangements in advance, so he could mess with girls without being disturbed." The blonde girl was speechless, while the girl with long black hair suddenly realized Karma was gone. Song Yoon-jin spun around in fright, and sure enough, only a bunch of thugs were left on the ground. A chill crept up her spine, and she managed to squeeze out 2 words, "Run. Now." But they'd barely taken a few steps when Karma suddenly came racing toward them on a hoverboard, crashing straight into her and sending her rolling head over heels. Song Yoon-jin clutched her shin and screamed in pain. "Ouch. Why were you looking back while running forward?" The girl with long black hair was terrified. "Karma, how did you get in front of us? I thought this scooter was fun, so I took a detour. Honestly, I figured you'd already been taught a lesson, but I guess we need to go over it again. Come on, sweet little girl, help our blonde friend review her lesson." The blonde girl spun around and bolted. Karma sighed in exasperation, chased after her on the hoverboard, grabbed her by the hair and spun her around, using her face to mop half the street. "Don't you know wheels are faster? If anyone else wants a free asphalt facial, I'm more than happy to help." The 3 of them had no choice but to kneel obediently in a row. "So, tell me, what exactly did you plan to do to me once you stripped me naked?" Not one of them dared make a sound. Seeing this, Karma told Song Yoon-jin to hand over her phone. Song Yoon-jin was clearly reluctant. Karma simply stomped down hard, and Song Yoon-jin let out a pig-like screech, immediately falling into line. Karma curiously opened the photo album, only to find it full of nude photos of girls. "Yoon-jin, are you a pimp?" she asked, turning her head as if it had nothing to do with Karma. Karma stomped again. "What do you mean, nothing to do with me? Are you planning to use my nudes to threaten me?" Song Yoon-jin screamed and admitted it, begging her to lift her foot. When Karma finally did, she looked a little perplexed. Having no sense of shame herself, she truly didn't understand why girls were so afraid of their nudes getting out. But she was clever, and immediately grasped the key point: leaked nudes are every girl's worst nightmare. Suddenly, Karma thought of a perfect way to get revenge. She handed the phone back to Song Yoon-jin, but just as she took hold of it, Karma smashed it to pieces. "Yoon-jin, I've just found a new dream. From today on, I want to become a great photographer. I don't really get why people take these kinds of photos, but shooting nudes must be super fun, right? Would you rather cooperate for the photos now, or wait until you pass out to cooperate for the photos?" The girl with the long black hair heard this and immediately started rubbing her hands, begging for mercy. Karma kicked her chin over with one swift move. "Good, you chose the second option." The girl with the long black hair fainted on the spot. "Have you all made up your minds? If you can't decide, I can help you out." Not long after, Karma was humming a little tune on her way home, but as soon as she stepped inside, she was overpowered by several burly men. Her stepfather didn't hesitate to pull out a gun, pressing the muzzle right to her. Because she had completely ruined her stepfather's revenge plan. In truth, the plan was simple. The adopted, mentally ill girl felt no pain, and had no sense of shame. All she needed was to be bullied at school for a couple of weeks, and her stepfather could conveniently call for an anti-bullying committee. The judge he'd bribed in advance would send the bullies off to a deserted island. On the surface, the island was a welfare facility for the disabled, but in reality, it was a ghostly, isolated no man's land. Song Yoon-jin and her brother would suffer the cruelest torture there. In the end, the return boat would accidentally crash on the rocks, faking their deaths. But now, everything had been ruined by Yoon Karma. Pushed to the ground, Karma scoffed that the plan was worthless. Because there was no real humiliation in it. Think about what Song Yoon-jin did to Hyena back then. She forced Hyena to wear a dog collar and crawl into the boys' bathroom in front of the whole school. That kind of psychological destruction is the biggest debt Song Yoon-jin owes. Physical pain is just the interest. True humiliation only works when the whole world is watching. But what's your plan? Let them reflect comfortably on an isolated island, cut off from everyone? Honestly, I'm disappointed. You act like you'd stop at nothing for your daughter's revenge, but in the end, you chose the gentlest approach. Have you already forgotten your original goal? Her stepfather only asked her one question. Your frontal lobe is damaged, you have no sense of shame. How can you understand someone else's humiliation? I can't feel it, but I can taste it. You have no idea how delicious that twisted look on people's faces is. No one knows the flavor of torment better than I do. Trust me, revenge on Song Yoon-jin has to happen at school. Her stepfather accepted Karma's reasoning. But the next second, he pressed the gun to Karma's forehead again, ordering the assistant and bodyguards to leave them alone. They were about to have a real father-daughter talk. After the bodyguards left, her stepfather spoke. From now on, all revenge plans will be set by Karma. After all, she was the true expert in torment. Did you finish what I told you to do? At that, Karma obediently took out a USB drive, even thoughtfully recommending he listen to track 6. The school bully's screams when his balls burst were a masterpiece. Her stepfather nodded, telling Karma to go out and rest. As soon as Karma pushed open the door, her stepfather couldn't wait to play the recording. The screams of Yoon-jin's brother echoed through the expensive speakers, filling the room. Karma paused for a moment. She immediately gave a knowing smile, thoughtfully recommending him to listen to segment 6. At that moment, the campus tyrant was heartbroken for his precious jewels. Song Yoon-jin's parents were beside themselves with anger, scrambling to contact the best legal team. After hanging up the phone, Song's father asked his daughter if she'd suffered any other harm. But Song Yoon-jin remained silent. After all, her indecent photos were still on Karma's phone. Truly, what goes around comes around. Just then, her stepfather called, saying he wanted to discuss compensation for the bullying. When Song Yoon-jin's parents opened the door, they were surprised to find Mr. Lee standing there. They immediately realized this was a move of retaliation from the stepfather. But the stepfather replied calmly, saying he had publicly forgiven the bullies last year. How could he possibly be seeking revenge now? Song's father flew into a rage, demanding the stepfather provide compensation, or else he would tell the whole country how he'd used a minor for revenge. You can forget about becoming the heir to the conglomerate. The stepfather's gaze turned cold. Fine, then let's talk compensation. I hear you're expanding into the Southeast Asian market. The group will give you its full support. I hear Yoon-jin's mother is fond of the group's luxury brands. From now on, she'll be upgraded directly to VIP status. I hear your family has a history of cancer. Yoon-jin's grandmother just beat colorectal cancer, but the risk of recurrence is high. Our group hospital has the most advanced anti-cancer technology. We promise the Song family free treatment for life. And of course, there's additional compensation. With a snap of his fingers, bodyguards brought in several black cases. When the cases were opened, they were packed with cash, exactly 2 billion won. In addition, I'll give you a Gangnam apartment worth over 5 billion won. Will this be enough to compensate your young master and young lady for their suffering? Song's father froze for 2 seconds, then suddenly burst out laughing. But in the next instant, he changed his tune, fawning, "It was just my son being foolish." Honestly, this was the perfect time for his jewels to break. Why not go ahead and break the other one too? Song's mother quickly whispered that this might be a trap. Song's father calmly replied, "I know what I'm doing. Just trust me." With that, he couldn't wait to sign the agreement. But the stepfather stopped him. Not so fast. There are 2 conditions before compensation. First, the bullying incident must remain strictly confidential. Song's father agreed readily. The second condition, Karma, come in. You must know, my adopted daughter has struggled to adjust to life in South Korea. I hope she can continue her studies, and that Yoon-jin will become her friend and support her. I've heard Yoon-jin's father is well acquainted with the school board. May I take it that you're willing to help with this? Before Song's father could reply, Karma spoke up first. She apologized. In an unfamiliar environment, she'd acted on impulse and lost control, which led her to hurt others. She sincerely apologized for her rudeness to Yoon-jin's mother at the academic office. She promised that from now on, she would become Yoon-jin's best friend for life. Even after graduating from high school, they would continue to keep in touch, becoming a bridge for cooperation between their 2 families' companies. After saying this, she bowed deeply, pleading with both sets of parents to give her a chance to prove herself. Yoon-jin's parents could no longer hide their greedy nature. At that moment, the same thought flashed through both Karma and her stepfather's minds. If this worked, they would finally gain the power to control Song Yoon-jin at will. Watching Yoon-jin's parents, blinded by money, Karma secretly smiled with satisfaction. It seemed Yoonjin's parents knew nothing about their daughter's compromising photos. Karma now held something over Yoonjin. Her stepfather received Yoonjin's parents' promise. Now, nothing stood in the way of her revenge. Meanwhile, Song Yoonjin was also sneering coldly. Karma must be on her knees, begging my dad for mercy right now. Dad will definitely make that brat drop out of school, and he'll force her family to go bankrupt paying for my brother's medical bills. Maybe her stepfather will even abandon her. In the end, I'll be the only winner. But to her surprise, the next day, Karma showed up at school as usual. What's more, Song's father specifically told her to get along with Karma, because Karma's father had a powerful background. Song Yoonjin was so angry she gritted her teeth, glaring fiercely at Karma. Karma, too, recalled her stepfather's words from last night. It turned out her stepfather had another nightmare about his daughter's bullying diary. Song Yoonjin had forced Hyena into the boys' restroom, making her bark like a dog in front of a group of boys. Hyena barked quietly a few times, but was immediately yanked up by her dog leash by Song Yoonjin. Bark like a real dog for me. With no choice, Hyena could only humiliate herself by barking loudly. But Song Yoonjin still wasn't satisfied. She made her change to another kind of bark. Then, Song Yoonjin drove the boys away from the urinals. The pungent smell of urine made even her pinch her nose, yet she ordered Hyena to lift her leg and pee at the urinal like a dog. I know you're bursting. You did drink so much water this morning because I made you. Lunch break is still long. I won't leave until you pee. Hyena trembled with humiliation, tears streaming down her face. Her stepfather suddenly jolted awake from the nightmare, gasping for breath. He put on his glasses, and, unable to sleep, went out to the balcony for some air, where he saw Karma gazing at the night view. He asked why she was still awake. Karma replied excitedly, just thinking about being able to toy with Yoonjin from now on. I'm too excited to sleep. Hearing this, her stepfather reminded her again. She had to destroy everything Song Yoonjin had. Remembering this, Karma suddenly stood up, and walked toward Song Yoonjin, full of excitement. She told Song Yoonjin to gather her and her little followers in front of the lockers. The three of them obediently lined up. Song Yoonjin forced a flattering smile and asked Karma what she wanted from them. Karma soothed her, don't be afraid. I promised your dad I'd get along with you. So I've prepared a reconciliation game. Karma rummaged through her backpack. Let's play the dog walking game. Simply put the dog leashes around your necks, and let's start the game. Now, let's assign roles. Blonde girl, you're the mischievous beagle. Long black hair, you're the Doberman with the longest stride. And as for our Yoonjin, of course you're the adorable Chihuahua. Song Yoonjin trembled with anger, and slapped the leash out of Karma's hand, furiously threatening to tell her father. Karma only pretended to cry, I really just want to be friends with you, you know. It's fine if you don't want to play. But if a friend ignores you, you have to find some other way to comfort your heart, right? Song Yoonjin asked nervously, what do you want? Karma smiled and said, I heard that when South Korean girls are upset, they post funny photos on social media. Yoonjin and I have quite a few memorable pictures, you know. Yoonjin frantically lunged for Karma's phone, pleading with her not to upload anything. But Karma's face turned cold. You always oppose everything I decide. Seems like you really don't want to be friends with me. This time, I'm not backing down. If you won't play with me, I'll just send out those photos. With that, Karma didn't say another word. She bent down to pick up the leash from the floor. Will you take a walk with me? Yoonjin, with no other choice, put on the leash and crawled outside the classroom. On both sides of the hallway, classmates lined up with their phones out, whispering and taking pictures, thinking Song Yoonjin was getting what she deserved. Hearing the jeers around her, Song Yoonjin's face flushed with rage, and she shouted at the girls egging things on. You brats, I'll remember all of you. Once my brother recovers, just wait and see what I do to you. She hadn't even finished when the leash was suddenly yanked, and Yoonjin was pulled down hard, landing on the ground, to a round of laughter from the crowd. Karma said coldly, no barking. Then she turned to the blonde girl, if taking pictures is too boring, maybe you want to play the beagle? The blonde girl quickly shook her head, I'm just a little nervous. At that moment, Karma announced to everyone, we're filming a challenge video, it's a show we all agreed to be in, so don't get the wrong idea. Saying this, Karma urged Chihuahua Yoonjin to hurry up, telling her they had to reach the boys' class before the break ended. Yoonjin protested, this isn't what you said would happen. Karma grinned, a walk has to go all the way around, of course. I'm not like some people, who drag others into the boys' bathroom, right? Yoonjin was stunned, how did you know about that? Karma kicked at her, dogs don't ask questions. Get over here, Chihuahua Yoonjin. No matter how Song Yoonjin struggled, Karma still dragged her all the way to the boys' class corridor. Seeing the girl crawling along while being filmed, the boys were all stunned. whispering to each other about how bold the girls' challenge videos were. Song Yoon-jin tried to cover her face, using illness as an excuse, inwardly crying, "Don't look at me." At that moment, a bespectacled boy walked over, laughing, "What's going on here?" Karma replied calmly, "Can't you tell? I'm walking my dog. Come on, Chihuahua, say hello. This is the first male friend I made in South Korea, Park Min-woo." Song Yoon-jin knew he was the top dog among the first-year boys, but she couldn't understand why Park Min-woo was mocking her together with Karma. Park Min-woo said he wanted to take a turn walking her too, and Karma obliged without hesitation. Song Yoon-jin snapped, "Who do you think you are? Since when do dogs talk?" Karma's face darkened. "Hope you don't tempt me to upload this any further." Song Yoon-jin was so frightened she shivered all over. A second later, she was yanked by the leash, stumbling forward. "Now you finally look a little more like a dog." Song Yoon-jin tried to scare them off by bringing up her school bully brother again. Unexpectedly, Park Min-woo wasn't fazed at all. Instead, he started settling old scores with her. Turns out, Song Yoon-jin had once gotten her bully brother to deal with some first-year boys. Boys who had grudges against the bully were everywhere. Now, they actually lined up on their own initiative. Seeing that long line, Song Yoon-jin trembled with fear. "I felt bad monopolizing the fun of dog walking, so I decided to try a little South Korean barter." Karma told the boys to line up properly, and for 1,001 each, they could take a turn holding Yoon-jin's leash. The boys scrambled to pull out their money. And just like that, Chihuahua Yoon-jin spent a lively recess. After the meaningful dog walking session ended, Karma brought her Chihuahua back to the classroom. She found the class president still studying hard, even during break. The class president suddenly shuddered, sensing something bad was about to happen. The next second, Karma dragged Yoon-jin over to the class president and made her bark on the spot. "Don't slack off, or your photos will go viral across the whole school." Yoon-jin had no choice but to bark for all she was worth. Karma gave no further commands, but instead, Yoon-jin threw herself into barking even more. Her furious barking echoed through the classroom, as if demanding why the class president wouldn't help her. In the end, the barking grew fiercer, and louder. The class president's face turned dark. At last, she couldn't take it anymore and snapped her pen in two. She confronted Karma, demanding to know what she wanted. "Walking my dog," Karma replied, looking provocative. The class president quivered with anger. "Don't worry, my dog doesn't bite. Go on, keep studying." But the class president stood up, refusing to be drawn in further. In her heart, she was already certain. Yoon Karma was nothing more than Mr. Lee's tool for revenge, and now she herself had become the next target. She needed to come up with a solution, fast. The class president's guess had been right. From that day on, every break, Yoon Karma would rush over, fixing her with an unblinking stare. After enduring this 4 or 5 times, the class president finally broke down and demanded that she just speak her mind. But Karma only put on an innocent, harmless smile. "Haven't you noticed we're the only ones left in the classroom?" The class president turned to look. Sure enough, the room was empty. She snorted coldly, "You scared everyone off. That's not it. They just went for lunch." The next second, Karma's gaze turned icy. "How can you sit there reading so calmly after killing someone?" The class president's own smile twisted into a sneer. That idiot wanted to die. It was her choice. Was suicide really a free choice, or had she died because of your indirect cruelty? The class president couldn't be bothered to respond, standing up to leave. Karma watched her back, her mind replaying her stepfather's stern admonitions. Moon-jin, daughter of a chief at a general hospital, the model class president in everyone's eyes, but a demon who bullied Hyena in secret. She had forced Hyena to eat cigarette butts, toilet paper, and other garbage. Her dream was to attend a sports college, but her father forced her to study medicine instead. Maybe that was the weak spot. Karma's eyes lit up with inspiration. After lunch, she resumed her surveillance routine. The class president forced herself to ignore Karma, focusing on underlining key points in her textbook. But suddenly, Karma grabbed a red pen and started scribbling furiously all over her book. The class president snatched it away at once, shouting, "What are you doing?" Karma blinked innocently. "I was just trying to help mark the important parts for you. How could you yell at me?" The class president was so furious at Karma's feigned innocence that she nearly exploded, but couldn't lose her temper in front of the other students, so she just turned away and walked off. "Going out? Then I'll come too." Their classmates stared, dumbfounded at the tug-of-war, only now realizing how terrifying the class president could be when she was angry. The class president fled to a spot by the garbage can, and, needing to vent her rage, kicked the metal bin so hard it left a dent in the thick steel. She looked back in panic to make sure Karma hadn't followed, and only then stopped, panting for breath. Unfortunately, that reference book worth 80,000 won was now utterly defaced by Karma's scribbles. She still couldn't figure out how Karma had gotten into her locker. Still, she felt relieved, at least karma hadn't gone after her the way she had Song Yoon-jin. But the very next moment, she dismissed that thought. This was only the beginning, and she would surely end up worse off than Song Yoon-jin in the end. What mattered most right now was not letting Yoon Karma spread the truth about her past. Those school bullies had already been taken care of by karma alone. So how was she supposed to deal with a monster girl like this? She gave a bitter, self-mocking laugh, deciding it was all just rumors. Those bullies were 2 or 3 times bigger than Yoon Karma. There was no way she could have beaten them all by herself. Mr. Lee must have sent bodyguards to help her. Song Yoon-jin was also being blackmailed by Yoon Karma, so she didn't dare clarify the rumor. That's right, just use the same method as with Lee Hyena. First, crush her completely, then catch her by the weakness, and turn Yoon Karma into a spy at Mr. Lee's side. As long as I handle Yoon Karma at school, what high school girl could possibly beat me? The class president's confidence came from the strength of her legs, which could be considered weapons. But when she returned to the classroom, she found her classmates looking at her with fear in their eyes. The girl with the bun was still saying, with a glare like that, the class president must be a delinquent. Her deskmate quickly reminded everyone that the class president was back. The class president hurried to put on a friendly expression, but her classmates still avoided her one after another. She immediately realized that her past had been exposed. She looked suspiciously at Karma, but since the words were coming from a North Korean defector who had never attended middle school in Korea, the classmates might not necessarily believe her. That only left Song Yoon-jin. Smart people always figure things out quickly. Half an hour earlier, Song Yoon-jin had been hiding in the bathroom, crying in secret. Today, she was paraded around like a dog by the girl with glasses, and everyone had watched and filmed it. Complaining to her father was useless. Her father just told her to get along with Karma. If Karma got angry and sent out those ugly photos, her life would be completely ruined. There were plenty of people who bullied Lee Hyena even worse than she did, and the class president was even in their class. But they picked on her, the one whose bullying was the mildest. To be humiliated like this was just too unfair. If someone in school had to be punished, why wasn't it the class president instead of her? Just then, 2 classmates walked into the bathroom, touching up their makeup and chatting. Karma is scary, but Song Yoon-jin really had it coming. Both of them thought Karma was especially cool when she dealt with Yoon-jin. They almost found themselves starting to like her. But they couldn't figure out why Karma had suddenly started going after the class president. The class president, smart and pretty, was really having a hard time. Yoon-jin couldn't hold it in any longer. She suddenly shoved open the bathroom door. What nonsense are you talking about? Moon-jin is even worse than I am. It was Moon-jin who stuffed cigarettes into Lee Hyena's stomach, and it was Moon-jin's idea to put a dog collar on her. If you don't believe me, go ask the girl with glasses. Why am I the only one made out to be the villain? Yoon-jin shouted and then ran out crying, leaving the 2 stunned girls behind. They glanced at each other. That was explosive. Song Yoon-jin hadn't recovered yet, when the class president dragged her out and slammed her hard to the ground. Right after, she stomped on Song Yoon-jin's neck. I told you, if you mess with me, I'll kill you. And you still dare to make trouble? The class president pressed down on Yoon-jin, furious, and all Yoon-jin could do was beg desperately for mercy. The next second, the class president stomped on her face. Get yourself ready. Once I'm done with Yoon Karma, you're next. She kicked Yoon-jin hard again, then spat on her face, before turning around to settle scores with Karma. Karma, oblivious, simply followed the class president to the lab. While Karma was examining the lab equipment, the class president quietly locked the door, telling Karma to lift the boxes from the floor onto the table. Just as Karma's hands were full, the class president suddenly threw a bottle of hydrochloric acid at her. Karma reacted quickly, but still got some on her sleeve. Before she could process what had happened, a flying kick from the class president followed right after. Karma hurriedly dropped the basket and raised her arms to defend herself, but even so, blood still trickled from the corner of her mouth. The class president was a little surprised. She hadn't expected Karma to react so swiftly. But that's what makes it interesting. A fight's no fun if it's too easy. She took off her glasses on purpose. Come on, brat, let's have a good time today. Karma was kicked so hard her internal organs bled, yet she clutched her stomach and burst out laughing. She silently wiped the blood from her lips, her excitement growing as she adopted a boxer's stance. At last, the class president is actually looking at me. From Karma's stance, the class president guessed she'd been a boxer before. But with her longer legs and powerful kicks, she held a clear advantage. She got excited right away, taunting Karma wildly to provoke her into attacking. When Karma showed no reaction, she assumed Karma was scared. So the class president took the initiative, closing in swiftly, twisting her foot, and unleashed a whirlwind kick at Karma. As soon as she landed, she leapt up again, launching a series of flying kicks. With the class president kicking at a furious pace, 130 times a minute, Karma narrowly dodged each one. Finally, a spinning, reinforced flying kick sent Karma sliding 2 meters across the floor. Just as she lifted her head, another flying kick came crashing in, sending Karma flying several more meters. The class president grinned, both vicious and pleased. "You look pretty cute, always stuck on defense." But Karma just kept her guard up, silent all the while. The class president talked tough, but hadn't landed a single solid hit. At the rate she was burning through her stamina, the tide was turning against her. She was still debating whether to mix some punches into her attacks, when Karma sneered. "What kind of idiot drives someone into a corner and then doesn't keep attacking? Are you scared now that you realize your kicks aren't working?" The class president flinched, guilt flashing across her face. She was about to retort when a sudden gust from a fist came at her, and as she dodged, the punch brushed so close it parted her hair. Before she could react, Karma's sinister face appeared right in front of her. "My turn now." As soon as the words left her lips, Karma swung a punch, the wind from it grazing the class president's chin. A deafening crash echoed through the vast lab. Thunder on a clear day? No, it was the girl's punch, rattling the glass. A chill ran down the class president's spine, and she leapt back 3 meters. Just as she tried to put some distance between them and look for an opening, suddenly, Karma's deep voice came from beside her ear. "Class rep, what are you looking at?" "That's just my afterimage." A fist, trailing a blur, slammed toward her in a flash. The air cracked as the class rep was sent flying several meters, crashing into a glass cabinet. A sharp pain in her back left her collapsed on the ground, unable to get up. Yet Karma praised her. "Not bad, you actually managed to kick me away in that instant, cushioning the impact. Guess you're not an idiot after all." But the class rep didn't feel happy at all. Karma's punches were terrifyingly strong, and she moved so fast it was impossible to see. There seemed no chance of victory. Only now did she understand that the rumors about Karma defeating the school bullies weren't just talk. She forced herself to calm down, raised her guard, and began analyzing with her top student mind. Karma is forced to attack head-on because of the obstacles. This works in my favor. If she shows even the slightest opening, I can react half a beat faster. The thought had barely formed when the class rep launched a vicious flying kick, sending Karma flying several meters. The strategy worked. Their punching speeds were about the same, but the class rep's legs were longer and her kicks faster. The next instant, she unleashed another flying kick, completely preventing Karma from closing in. A smug smile crept onto the class rep's face. But there was a marble lab table in the room, weighing 160 pounds, utterly immovable. She thought, "If that woman dares step on the table, I'll use a spinning kick to trip her." She felt fully confident about how things would go. Unexpectedly, Karma flipped the lab table in a single second, then immediately punched the class rep, sending her flying. Karma's expression was one of extreme irritation. "Are you that eager to show off those long legs of yours? You really have the nerve to piss me off like this? You must have felt it just now. If you hadn't defended yourself, if my punch had hit you square on, you'd be dead." Only then did the class rep realize she wasn't joking. She turned to run, but the next second her hair was yanked hard, and she was flung back into the glass cabinet. "Didn't you say before you wanted a good, hard fight? And now all you want to do is run away? Class rep, it's your turn. Show me something interesting." Karma grabbed the door bolt, and with a sharp snap, the bolt shattered to pieces. "Now, this lab is locked down tight, no way out, not even for a bullet. We can really have some fun." Gritting her teeth, the class rep suddenly tore open her uniform, wrapping the fabric around her forearm, and, with a roar, swung a punch with all her might behind her. The chemical cabinet shattered on impact, glass shards flying everywhere, and then hydrochloric acid came splashing out. Karma dodged to the side just in time. The class rep grabbed a shard of glass, punctured 2 bottles of acid. "Go to hell, you bitch." Twin streams of hydrochloric acid sprayed out like fountains. Karma turned to flee, but still got splashed. A huge hole burned through her uniform. Karma quickly grabbed a stool as a shield. Acid ran down the seat, dripping onto her thigh with a harsh sizzling sound. Veins bulged on Karma's forehead as she glared daggers at the class rep. The acid finally ran out, but before the class rep could catch her breath, a stool came hurtling through the air at her. "Is the water gun game over?" The class monitor surrendered and suggested a truce. "Why don't we talk this out? Go talk to your dead great-grandmother, bastard." A sharp glint flashed in the monitor's eyes. The next instant, a stool came flying at Karma. She darted back quickly. The monitor grabbed the stool and leapt up, slamming it hard onto the ground as Karma dodged with lightning speed. The stool spun wildly through the air. The monitor kicked it with all her strength, sending it straight at Karma. A crisp sound of bones cracking echoed, her pubic bone, ribs, and collarbone all fractured at once. The monitor's eyes lit up, a smile tugged at the corner of her lips, her collarbone's broken. She can't throw a punch. I've won. But in the very next moment, Karma sent the monitor flying with a single punch. A sharp pain exploded between the monitor's brows. She struggled to escape, and Karma felt something wrong with her own arm. Her experience told her instantly that her collarbone was also fractured. You dare break my bones. Karma lashed out with a kick, but the expected fracture didn't come. The monitor froze, then broke into a delighted grin, thinking she could seize Karma's leg and take her down. But Karma used the momentum to vault into the air, grabbed the monitor's head in a reverse grip, and slammed it hard into the floor. The monitor lost consciousness instantly. It turned out Karma had lured her into grabbing her leg, returning the monitor's move in kind. Just then, there was a violent banging at the door. Karma heard the teachers searching for tools to pick the lock, so there was still time. Let's keep playing, class monitor. The monitor woke up to find Karma straddling her back, her hands tied behind her. She cursed furiously. Karma lifted her shirt, revealing the monitor's pale lower back. A shudder ran through the monitor. Karma picked up some broken glass, casually scattered it over the small of the monitor's back, then yanked the shirt down hard, and drove her knee down with brutal force. The monitor screamed like a slaughtered pig. Karma ground her knee over the glass, left and right, the shattering sound piercing. Racked with pain, the monitor shouted, "You bitch. I'll kill you for this." Karma suddenly pressed her head to the floor, her entire weight crushing the monitor's back. Her voice turned icy cold. Most people would be begging for mercy by now, but you're still hurling curses. Have you lived so comfortably that you've forgotten your basic survival instincts? Only then did the monitor start to panic, stammering as she begged Karma to get off. At that moment, the teachers outside began forcing the lock, the door about to give way. A thought flashed through Karma's mind. Look at the mess you made. A model student should clean up after herself. Let me use this human rag. I've got to wipe everything up. The first time I saw our pretty class monitor, I thought your face was as pale as a wet wipe. You must be great at cleaning floors. The monitor pleaded frantically for mercy, but Karma kept her pinned firmly to the ground. The teachers outside heard the screams and shouted anxiously, asking what was happening inside. The monitor cried out, "Help! This lunatic is trying to kill me." Karma replied innocently, "I just wanted to tidy up a bit." The monitor struggled desperately to keep her head away from the acid, her screams growing more and more harrowing. Finally, the lab door was forced open. "What are you doing in here?" Seeing the class president pinned to the ground with his hands tied, the PE teacher, fuming with anger, dragged Karma over to the lab table. "Yoon Karma, it's you again." Karma clicked her tongue in annoyance. Only then did the class president, gasping for air, sit up. The dean looked around at the lab, as if an earthquake had just struck, and furiously announced that both of them would be punished. But when he learned that the class president was the school's top student, a genius about to be recommended straight to medical school, he immediately decided the class president was the victim and demanded Karma state her name. Very soon, though, he squinted in confusion. "Why do you look so familiar? Didn't I just see you in the academic office last time? Don't you remember?" The dean's expression changed, a kindly smile appeared instantly, and he told Karma to say hello to Mr. Lee, then quickly turned to the others, sternly reminding everyone to keep this a secret. He told the class president, "Originally, you were going to be punished, but since your academic record brings honor to the school, I'll let it go this time. However, if you ever bully our Karma again, I won't let you off so easily." The class president was speechless and had no choice but to accept it. The dean then instructed the PE teacher to tidy up the lab, and personally escorted Karma out. The two of them chatted and laughed, paying no attention at all to the devastated PE teacher and class president left behind. The class president stared blankly at Karma's departing figure, but Karma turned back and made a throat-slitting gesture at her. After school, the girl with glasses tried to invite Karma out for tteokbokki, but Karma said she was going to a celebration dinner with someone else. The class president shuddered violently, clutching her head in despair, torn about whether she should call her boyfriend for backup. Song Yoon-jin, biting her finger, was furious as well. "My parents are off in Southeast Asia. What if she messes me up as badly as she did my brother?" But then she had a change of heart. "I heard Karma and the class president just had a huge fight. Is the class president her real target? Please, just take care of Moonjin on your way home from school." Song Yoon-jin then planned to treat her little followers to a meal. But the blonde girl suddenly shook off her hand, warning, "Don't push your luck. If your brother weren't protecting you, who would even bother with you?" The girl with long black hair crossed her arms, threatening to cut ties with her for good. Song Yoon-jin's eyes filled with tears, then she suddenly exploded, shouting, "Just because I left you two behind and went home first yesterday, you're going to dump me? When I was walked like a dog, weren't you the ones filming videos? You heartless jerks. Fine, let's break up." With that, she wiped her tears, shoved them both aside, and ran out. The truth was, the reason they did this was because after school yesterday, Karma had approached them, telling them she wanted to focus on taking down the class president and ordered the two of them to bully Yoon Jin. As long as they did their job this semester, she'd delete their nudes. The two, who had been reluctant at first, immediately perked up and promised to get it done. Karma thought to herself that this would count as completing her stepfather's assignment. It turned out Hyena used to have many friends, but ever since she was targeted by the bullying gang, everyone started avoiding her. In order to protect Mr. Lee and the corporation, Hyena chose to bear everything alone, refusing to seek help from anyone. Her stepfather's demand was karma. He wanted Song Yoon Jin to fully experience loneliness. The class president, who witnessed everything, knew perfectly well that she couldn't turn to her father for help. If Mr. Lee wanted to go after the hospital her family had run for years, her father would sacrifice her without a second thought. The only person she could rely on was herself. Luckily, she had already left Yoon Karma with multiple fractures yesterday, so she probably wouldn't show up at school today. She never expected the classroom door to suddenly swing open, and Karma appeared. The whole class froze as if they'd seen a monster. Karma walked straight toward the class president, leaned in with a bright smile and said, "From now on, I'll be sitting next to you." The teachers already agreed. The class president clenched her teeth, her whole body trembling. With a loud bang, Karma dropped her backpack on the class president's desk. "This is my welcome gift for my new deskmate." The class president stared at the bag, breaking out in a cold sweat. Suddenly, the bag started to squirm. "Go ahead, open it. I guarantee you'll be shocked." As Karma spoke, she pulled a huge crab out of the bag, its claws waved menacingly. The class president accused Karma of animal cruelty, pointing out that crabs are aquatic creatures and would die if kept out of water too long. But Karma replied that crabs could survive on land as well. She suddenly leaned close to the class president. "Isn't it funny that someone who used to abuse people is now accusing me of abusing animals?" The class president's face darkened, and she turned away, telling Karma to take the crab back. Karma seized the chance to push the crab closer to the class president, and the crab's claw instantly latched onto her thigh. The class president let out a scream, as blood oozed from the fresh wound. She slapped the claw away, and demanded to know what Karma was trying to do. Karma smiled slightly. "Class president, do you know that the English word for cancer is cancer? That word actually comes from the Greek for crab, because tumors spread the way a crab crawls, and the pain of cancer feels like being pinched by a crab. So tell me, doesn't seeing a crab remind you of that student who jumped off the building?" The class president's eyes were filled with shock. Just how much does this person know? You can probably guess what kind of game we're about to play. Do you think the class president can endure the pain from the crab's claw and still focus in class? But the class president wasn't fazed at all. The first period was the homeroom teacher's English class. She had a good relationship with the teacher because she was active in the English club. Besides, judging by the way the crab was blowing bubbles, it probably wouldn't last through the first period. During class, Karma kept her eyes fixed on the class president. She pressed her lips together, and brought the crab close to the class president's thigh. With a sharp click, the crab's claw snapped onto her leg. The class president's body jolted, but she forced herself to stay calm as she stood up, and reported Karma's prank directly to the teacher. The teacher froze for a second, then turned to look at Karma. Karma just shrugged innocently. The teacher said, "That kind of joke isn't funny. Sit down." Seeing the teacher didn't believe her, the class president kicked Karma's desk aside, pointed at the crab in Karma's hand, and showed the evidence right there to the teacher. The sight of the crab in Karma's hand made the teacher's eye twitch uncontrollably. "Karma, can you wait until class is over to play?" Karma obediently agreed, acting perfectly well behaved. The teacher ordered the class monitor to move the desk back and sit down so class could continue. The class monitor looked utterly baffled, her eyebrows twitching in confusion. As it turned out, Mr. Lee had donated quite a sum to the school, and the principal had asked the teachers to make sure Karma adapted well to campus life, no negative press allowed. Seeing all this, Karma flashed a devilish grin, and handed over the crab, its pincers wide open. The class monitor recoiled sharply, shouting furiously, "Come any closer and I'll smash this crab's shell to pieces." The very next moment, she lunged forward with a punch. Karma dodged like lightning, hooked her legs around the monitor's shoulders, and trapped her completely between her thighs. Then, Karma's muscular thighs clamped down with a sudden force, nearly crushing the monitor's ribs, making her howl in pain like a pig being slaughtered. Karma hung off the class monitor triumphantly, declaring, "Now I can finally squeeze the class monitor as much as I want." As she spoke, she brought the crab to the monitor's face again. No matter how the monitor struggled, the crab's instincts kicked in, and it clamped right on. The feeling was like having your foot pinned by a microwave oven. And the smaller the area of contact, the sharper the pain. The agony from the crab's pincers was about 20 times worse than a clothespin. Under the merciless tugging of the pincers, the class monitor cried out desperately for the teacher's help. At last, the teacher lost all patience. "You two, out to the corridor with your hands up, kneel as punishment." Soon enough, both girls were kneeling in the corridor, the class monitor with her hands raised, Karma clutching the crab's pincers. The monitor's body was dotted with bloody marks from the pincers. She turned to Karma, demanding, "Why aren't you holding your hands up?" Karma feigned ignorance. "What's that, class monitor? Aren't I holding up my pet's hands very seriously?" Then she snickered to herself, "So you're this naive? No one's watching, and you still take it so seriously." The class monitor found herself almost convinced by Karma's words, sighed, and was about to lower her hands. In the next instant, the crab's pincers clamped down on her leg again. "Class monitor, it's not that no one's watching, I'm watching, and so is my pet. From now on, I'll take over the teacher's punishment. You'd better endure it." But when class ended, the crab suddenly died. The class monitor mocked Karma, calling her an idiot, and turned to leave. But when she came back, she discovered the crab's corpse lying in her own backpack. Her boyfriend's wallet had also been soaked in stinking water. The monitor was so furious her eyes turned red and her whole body shook. At that moment, Karma appeared, suggesting they hold a funeral for the crab. After some thought, she decided it would be most fitting to lay it to rest in the arms of the class monitor, who'd shared such a bond with it. "Class monitor, what do you say? Aren't you a little bit happy, too?" Seeing the monitor blazing with rage, Karma thought to herself, "This is just the beginning. It won't get interesting until my stepfather's food interrogation menu is ready. This is mere child's play for now." But in the very next second, Karma got smacked in the face with the crab, and the class monitor even rubbed it back and forth across her cheeks. "They say crab contains skincare ingredients, but please, stop putting it in my bag. How about using it as a beauty mask instead?" Right then, Karma grabbed the monitor's arm. Twisting her waist, she flung the class president against the blackboard by the back door, then followed up with a heavy punch. With a crack, the blackboard split open. "Why are you so cocky? Usually, people who've been beaten by me know to keep their heads down." But the class president retorted provocatively, "Do you think I'm a pushover like Song Yoon Jin? No matter how quiet I am, you wouldn't let me off anyway. If you've got the guts, keep coming, I'll never play along with your script." Karma suddenly leaned in close to her ear and whispered, "Get ready. One day, I'll make you shed tears of blood." With that, she turned and warned the rest of the class. The class president broke the blackboard. Then she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Inside, the class president confirmed her own suspicions. Yoon Karma could no longer do as she pleased at school. She wasn't sure why, but Mr. Lee insisted on dealing with Karma on campus, and Karma couldn't put her in the hospital. "The tables have turned, it's my move now. Yoon Karma, just wait. I'll be the one laughing in the end." After school, the class president strolled out the gates feeling light and refreshed. Just thinking about Karma tormenting Song Yoon Jin out of spite made her want to laugh. And now, with Yoon Karma and Mr. Lee's connection out in the open, her plan for retaliation was officially underway. She'd gather every bit of video evidence and hand it all to Bae Doa, another member of the bullying ring. Bae Doa had transferred to Gwangju, but her grandmother was the chief of HBS. HBS ran a TV station and a news account with 1 million followers. Once Mr. Lee was surrounded by public scrutiny, let's see if she could still act so arrogant. Lost in thought, the class president suddenly froze. In the distance, a sporty, handsome guy was staring right at her. It was her boyfriend. She quickly glanced around to make sure no one was watching, took off her glasses, and called out coyly, "Oppa." She dashed over to him, asking why he was visiting her in the middle of sports season. "If I'd known you were coming, I would have dressed up for you." But her boyfriend just asked coolly, "What happened to your face?" Embarrassed, she scratched her cheek, saying she'd bumped it during gym class. Then, eyes shining, she asked why he'd come to see her. She never expected his next words would land like a thunderbolt. "Are you a delinquent?" Her heart skipped a beat, but she forced herself to stay calm and asked, "Why are you only here now?" He said his friend's younger sister was in her class, and the girl had said there were lots of bullies at school. She was so scared she didn't even want to go to class. And one of the bullies' descriptions matched the class president exactly. Her boyfriend stared at her coldly, "Is there anything you want to tell me? You know how much I hate bullies, and now I hear my own girlfriend is making someone eat cigarette butts. Only a lunatic would do that." The next moment, the class president yanked down her pants right there, lifted her skirt, and revealed the bloody wound from a crab's claw. "Look closely. This is the wound I got from being bullied today. Does this look like the kind of injury you get after bullying someone else?" It was obvious at a glance that I was the one being unilaterally mistreated. Her boyfriend broke out in a cold sweat. The class president explained that she was actually trying to protect the bespectacled girl who was being bullied and targeted by delinquents, but now the bullying group had twisted the story, spreading rumors that she was the bully. The class president, aggrieved, growled in a low voice, They just want to stop me from getting into college. I was afraid to affect your competition, so I gritted my teeth and carried it alone. Yet you were the first to doubt me. Her boyfriend hugged her with a heart full of pity. I was too impulsive. You could never be that kind of person. The class president seized the chance to secure herself further. You won't ever believe others and start doubting me again, will you? Her boyfriend promised repeatedly that he wouldn't, vowing to get revenge for her. But behind her boyfriend, the class president's expression twisted with ferocity. I have to think of something fast. Oppa is the only safe harbor in my wretched life. If we break up because of rumors, I'll make sure to kill you and Karma first, then follow her to the grave. And this entire scene was seen, clear as day, by Karma, hidden up in the tree. The young couple had just arrived at the karaoke bar, and hormones started to take hold. Blushing, the class president complained that if it weren't for cram school later, things would be perfect. Still, thanks to her boyfriend coming to find her, much of the pressure from recent days had melted away. Her upright boyfriend insisted on confronting the bullying group face to face. He couldn't just stand by while his girlfriend was being bullied. But the class president brushed him off, saying those people had powerful connections and it wasn't something that could be solved with a few words. She begged her boyfriend not to interfere. She already had a plan for revenge. All she needed from him was unconditional trust. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee sat before a wedding photo, shrouded in sorrow. Honey, though you left too soon, Hyena has grown into an angel as upright and kind as you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect our daughter. I trust that you and Hyena will reunite in heaven. This world is too wicked, but I'll make sure every scum who hurt Hyena rots in hell. At that moment, the chief and Karma brought in their investigative report. Shin Kyo-min, the class president's boyfriend, was the rising star of the school tennis team, well liked for his good looks, great physique, and outstanding academic performance. But in reality, he was easily swayed by others, indecisive by nature. He and the class president had been dating for almost 2 years, having met at the school's sports festival, where mutual affection quickly blossomed. Because of her father's pressure, the class president had been forced to give up athletics and switch to a pre-med track, which brought immense academic stress and left her emotionally dependent on her boyfriend. Now, he was her only source of support. Mr. Lee, impatient, asked why they were introducing this boy. Karma stood up to explain. Shin Kyo-min was a pawn in her plan. She intended to destroy the class president's only pillar of emotional support. Her plan was called the NTR plan, meaning, she would take away the class president's beloved. I know you're developing that food that kills with a single bite. But before the Last Supper, Karma can't just sit idly by. So, I plan to stage a melodramatic farce that will shatter the class president's spirit completely. Of course, scum who hurt my daughter don't deserve the beauty of youth. The NTR plan starts now. Elsewhere, the class president coyly snuggled up, hoping to help the boy unwind from his exhaustion. The innocent young man's face flushed bright red in an instant. The class president teased him with a smile, asking what he was thinking about. The two of them fooled around for a while, and then the class president waved goodbye to him. Shin Kyo-min waved back, secretly annoyed at himself, feeling he shouldn't have doubted such a kind and adorable girlfriend. He decided in his heart that he must do something for his bullied girlfriend. Just then, someone called out to him from behind. He turned his head and was instantly stunned by Karma's beauty, then immediately whipped his head away. He already had such a wonderful girlfriend, he couldn't let himself waver. Karma smiled and said she often heard the class president mention him. Shin Kyo-min asked politely, "Who are you?" Karma asked, "Don't you want to know about Moon Yejin's past?" Unexpectedly, as soon as he heard this, his expression changed completely. "So you're the delinquent who bullied Yejin." Karma pointed to the scratch marks on her own face, implying that she was actually the victim. Shin Kyo-min exploded in anger. "How dare you turn the tables and even come looking for her boyfriend to sow discord? You really are a nasty piece of work. Don't ever show up in front of me again. I'm her boyfriend, and I promise you'll pay for what you did." With that, he stormed off, not giving Karma a chance to explain. Karma stared darkly at Shin Kyo-min's retreating back. It seemed the class president had already warned him in advance. But she couldn't let him just walk away. She decided to lay all her cards on the table, admitting that she had bullied the class president, and the wounds on her legs were her doing. Shin Kyo-min immediately rushed over, grabbing Karma's shoulders tightly. "What exactly do you want?" "I just want to talk. If you don't agree, I'll keep creating on the class president's legs." Shin Kyo-min had no choice but to give in. The two of them went to a cafe. Shin Kyo-min asked in disgust, "What will it take for you to leave the class president alone?" Karma told him to calm down and listen to her story first. "I'm a defector from North Korea, taken in by my stepfather. He gave me boundless love, but every night he lived in hell, because his only daughter was bullied at school until she took her own life. And the demon who drove her to it was the class president." Shin Kyo-min roared furiously, "Stop talking nonsense." Everyone in the cafe turned to look at them. Karma signaled for Shin Keelman to mind his manners. But Shin Keelman's veins stood out on his neck as he cursed her in rage. Karma had expected this. She calmly handed over a copy of the court verdict, a document her stepfather had received as the victim's family, showing there was a perpetrator, all the details matching the class president exactly. But Shin Keelman said, "This is nothing but fake garbage you made up." Karma was helpless, but not surprised. She took out her tablet and opened a web page. The screen clearly showed the search results for the case back then, with the class president's name unmistakably listed. Shin Keelman was still stubborn. "This is definitely photoshopped. I could make something like this with PS2. This isn't just a picture, it's the official website. As long as you have the case number and the parties' names, you can look it up." Shin Keelman shouted, "It must be someone with the same name. You forged this document too." He sounded forceful, but his voice was growing weaker. Karma could tell that the person before her actually understood the truth, but just didn't want to accept it. "I get that you want to deny it, but it's time for you to start facing the facts." The boy clutched his head, groaning in pain, refusing to believe it. The girlfriend he'd dated for 2 years was actually the bully he hated most. He hurriedly grabbed his phone, wanting to call the class president right away to confirm. Karma quickly stopped him. "With her brainwashing skills, if you call her now, you'll never believe me again." Things had reached this point, now there was only one option left. Suddenly, Karma applied more force, and cracks began to appear on the phone screen. The next second, Karma snapped the phone in half. She used so much force that she fell to the ground herself, and the tablet on the table crashed to the floor. Shin Keelman stared blankly at the half phone in his hand. "My phone. My chocolate milkshake. Get out." The two of them were kicked out of the cafe and stood awkwardly outside. Shin Keelman demanded that Karma pay for his phone and told her never to show up again. Seeing this, Karma could only suggest, "Leave school 20 minutes early tomorrow afternoon and meet me at the back gate. I'll let you see the true face of the class president with your own eyes." The scene shifted. Song Yoon-jin was eating, when suddenly a lump of rice was slapped onto her face, followed by soup being dumped all over her. The ones bullying her were her former little followers. Song Yoon-jin gritted her teeth. "They've gone too far." The girl with long black hair tried to comfort her. "Look on the bright side, at least today it's rice. Remember the first day? They gave you dog food. We even added some cereal for Karma's sake." Song Yoon-jin suddenly understood. No wonder it didn't taste that bad. Just then, the blonde girl told her to go to the garbage dump, saying Karma was waiting. Though scared, she had no choice but to go. When she arrived, Karma was sitting on top of the dome, though it was a mystery how she'd gotten up there. Seeing her approach, Karma hopped down lightly, landing steadily on the ground. Karma suggested, "How about I teach you a way to keep from being bullied again? After school, go provoke the class president, and let her beat you half to death." Song Yoon-jin was stunned on the spot. Wasn't this just sending her to her doom? She refused outright, suspecting Karma was just finding a new way to torment her. If the class president loses control, she's actually terrifying. Karma raised an eyebrow. "So you think I'm useless? Not scary at all?" Karma acted right away, threatening to hold an embarrassing photo exhibit if she didn't cooperate. Song Yoon-jin had no choice but to give in. 20 minutes before school ended, the class president's boyfriend appeared at the school gate as promised. Once again, he fell into self-doubt, questioning himself over and over. Was he being too suspicious of his girlfriend? He gave his head a hard shake, trying to clear his mind and snap back to reality. In truth, it was that troublemaker Yoon Karma who had threatened him. That's why he came. He just wanted to protect his girlfriend. At that moment, Karma showed up. "I knew you'd come." She looked smug. "I found the perfect spot, just right for watching the class president's performance. I especially brought you along. Don't get the wrong idea. Don't let your mind wander off to anything else." Not long after, the bell signaling the end of school rang. The two arrived at the rooftop right on time. Karma even brought a high-definition video camera. The class president finally showed up too. She fixed Song Yoon-jin with a cold stare and asked, "Why did you want to see me alone? Don't tell me you forgot. I said after I'm done with Karma, you're next." Song Yoon-jin finally turned around, voice shaking, stammering out a challenge to the class president. Veins bulged in the class president's forehead, her face turned ashen, her eyes held the look of someone staring at an idiot. Song Yoon-jin was so scared her teeth were chattering. But the class president quickly regained her composure. Both Song Yoon-jin's crazy reasoning and the timing of her outburst seemed too suspicious. She didn't seem like someone who'd really lost her mind. Instead, she was very aware of what would happen if she provoked the class president. With that thought, the class president suddenly looked up at the rooftop. But there was nothing up there. It turned out Karma had already dragged Song Yoon-jin away. Although she couldn't figure out why Song Yoon-jin had suddenly gone crazy, her gut told her not to stick around and play along with this farce. So the class president turned and left without hesitation. Song Yoon-jin let out a long sigh of relief, grateful to have escaped with her life. She reassured herself that she'd tried her best. If the class president wouldn't take the bait, it wasn't her fault. Surely Karma would understand. She was about to leave when she realized Karma was glaring at her, teeth clenched, eyes fixed on her with fury. A chill ran through her. Panic set in. What am I hoping for? Yoon Karma really might kill me. Her mind raced, desperately searching for anything that could make the class president completely lose control. Digging through every memory, she finally seized on the crucial detail. Suddenly, Song Yoon-jin shouted at the class president's back, "Hey! You murderer! Lee Hyena didn't jump off the building by herself. It was you and Chae Shohyun who dragged her to the roof and forced her to jump. Hey, you murderer! Lee Hyena wasn't a suicide, you killed her." The class president spun around, radiating menace, suddenly terrifying. Even Karma on the rooftop was stunned. What do you mean? Didn't Hyena kill herself because of stomach cancer and bullying? The class president advanced like a demon. Who told you that? Instead, Song Yoon-jin was secretly pleased, urging her to turn herself in. But before she could finish her sentence, the class president sent her flying with a kick, even knocking the hair roller from her hair. The class president then dashed forward a few steps and unleashed a flurry of kicks into Song Yoon-jin's stomach. Song Yoon-jin gritted her teeth and tried to endure, but in the end she couldn't help but vomit. Her boyfriend stood by, dumbfounded, never imagining that his girlfriend of 2 years was capable of something like this. No one knew how long it lasted before the class president finally vented enough. Song Yoon-jin clutched her stomach, coughing so hard she was nearly out of breath. The class president sneered, "That's right, I'm a murderer. But how dare you act so cocky in front of a murderer?" Song Yoon-jin realized her life hung by a thread, and struggled to explain the truth. But in the next second, the class president shoved the hair roller into her mouth. "The problem is that mouth of yours. That damn mouth." As she spoke, the class president raised her fist. "I'll make sure you never speak again." She grabbed Song Yoon-jin's head in a vice grip and pummeled her with heavy punches, one after another, venting all her rage. Her boyfriend above was stunned. His eyes were wide, his mouth open in disbelief. The girlfriend standing before him, hands covered in blood, still wore a mocking smile. The once gentle, lovely, lively girlfriend was crumbling to ashes before his eyes. All those beautiful memories seemed like some cruel joke. He had actually dated such a demon for 2 years. Just then, the blood-smeared hair roller fell to the ground. The class president yanked up Song Yoon-jin, her face bloody, coughing uncontrollably. She warned her, "Starting tomorrow, don't ever show up at school again. Or I'll make you disappear, medically, completely." Song Yoon-jin didn't know if she was delirious or just terrified into silence, but not a word escaped her lips. Seeing this, the class president grew even angrier and landed a vicious kick. Song Yoon-jin went flying 2 meters like a sandbag, then collapsed, motionless. Right after, the class president spat on her face and turned to leave in a fury. Having witnessed everything with his own eyes, the boyfriend murmured in a daze, "Impossible. That person, that can't be Jin." At this moment, Karma looked down at the camera in her hand with satisfaction. Thanks to Yoon-jin dutifully playing the punching bag, she'd managed to capture a video this useful. This footage would be crucial before the final supper. Meanwhile, Shin Kil-min sat slumped on the floor, overwhelmed by too much shocking information all at once. A murderer, forcing someone to jump. Who have I been dating all this time? Karma had expected Shin Kil-min to be shaken, but not to this extent. Or perhaps, this is the normal reaction when you find out your girlfriend is a killer? At this point, seduction was out of the question. The man looked on the verge of a breakdown. If the NTR plan failed, the chief would seize control of the operation, a result Karma absolutely could not allow. She had to find a way to win over Shin Kil-min today. But how do you seduce a man who's falling apart? According to the encyclopedia, the simplest method is seduction. Although Karma lacked a sense of shame, she felt that using this tactic on someone so innocent might backfire. She hadn't come up with a new plan yet when Shin Kil-min suddenly lashed out at her. "Are you satisfied now? Do you know how painful it is to realize that the person you love deeply is actually a monster?" Karma seemed to understand, and a new plan began to take shape in her mind. Shin Kil-min lowered her head again and apologized. "I'm sorry, could you please leave me alone for a while?" But Karma walked over and draped her own jacket around Kil-min's shoulders. Shin Kil-min froze, her tear-filled eyes looking up at Karma. She simply sat down beside her, gazing up at the sky, her expression filled with sorrow. "I'm sorry, I can't leave you here by yourself. Maybe you didn't hear, but they said Sister Hyena jumped from the rooftop. As her family, I can't leave someone grieving alone on the rooftop. I'm sorry for pulling you into my revenge plan, but I had no other choice. I have to take revenge on the class president. Even if I stayed away from you, all of this would still end up hurting you. I don't mean you any harm, but I must take responsibility for the pain I've caused. So, I want to share a story from my life with you. Maybe it will bring you some comfort. I once spent a relatively happy childhood in North Korea. Back then, life wasn't prosperous, but I had a father who loved me dearly, who was gentle and kind. As long as I was with my father, I felt like the happiest child in the world. Just as the class president is irreplaceable to you, my father used to be my entire world. Until that day. My father was a national scientist, and his main work was conducting experiments on live lab rats. And as it turned out, I was that lab rat. At the time, the country had a special research project, and I was the most suitable test subject. When he found out, he didn't hesitate, he started experimenting on me right away. As long as he could gain approval from his superiors, even his own daughter was expendable. I was only 10 years old then. My father injected all kinds of harsh drugs into my veins, and every day, I endured pain so intense it felt like my blood vessels were melting. Every second was like hell. It was as if all the suffering I was destined to endure in my life exploded in that instant, all at once. As the lab rat, I was kept in an iron cage for at least 3 years. Do you know how much that hurt? Even now, if I clench my fist for 10 seconds, the black scars left on my veins will still appear. Shin Keelman was shocked and full of sympathy. Oh my God, that must have hurt so much. Karma paused in surprise, then smiled. Aren't you supposed to hate me? Why are you starting to pity me instead? You really are a good person. Shin Keelman grew a little embarrassed, her face flushed, and she scratched her head, unable to say a word. Karma continued, I want you to know that we've both suffered in similar ways. I used to think that the father who loved me with all his heart was just a lie. I even thought I'd be trapped in that cage forever, until I died. But by chance, I came to a new world in South Korea. I also met a stepfather who loved me. Thanks to my stepfather, I could enjoy chocolate milkshakes to my heart's content. Seeing Karma's radiant smile, Shin Keelman's heart suddenly raced, as if he couldn't control it. At that moment, Karma stood up. Even if your world collapses and it feels like everything's over, as long as you have the courage to take one step forward, you'll surely find a brand new world, just like I did. The encyclopedia says a woman should use another woman to forget the past. I was planning to seduce you and make the class president explode with jealousy, but you're so innocent, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. You're such a good person, you're bound to meet someone even better for you than the class president. As for my shirt, you can use it as a handkerchief or just throw it away. I'm really sorry for everything these days. I'll be heading out now. Shin Keelman suddenly shouted, wait. Karma flashed a sly grin, secretly pleased. As expected, innocent guys always fall for this. She turned back, feigning confusion. What is it? Do you have something to say to me? Shin Keelman looked utterly serious. You still haven't paid me back for my phone. How could you possibly think a shirt would make up for everything? You must be joking. Didn't you say you'd buy me the latest model? Shouldn't we be heading downtown now? Downtown is the most popular dating spot, after all. Didn't you say you'd use another woman to get over heartbreak? Well, I've decided to make full use of you to heal my wounds, and you can use me to get your revenge. Sounds fair, right? Karma played along and turned back. Then let's go on a date right now. In the blink of an eye, it was evening. At that moment, the class president was at cram school, chewing her fingernail anxiously as she waited for news. Her boyfriend still hadn't replied. The teacher was talking about how the female lead suffered because of her husband's infidelity. But the class president just stared blankly at her phone, unable to focus. Finally, the teacher couldn't stand it and scolded her. Looking at her zero-mark test paper, the class president realized the teacher had a point. She was about to pull herself together and pay attention in class when suddenly, her phone buzzed. Just as she resolved to concentrate, she snatched up her phone, desperate to see if it was her boyfriend's reply. But it turned out to be a message from Yoon Karma, telling her to look out the window. The class president froze for a moment. How did she get my number? The next second, she whipped around, and saw Karma standing on the rooftop across from her, locking eyes with her from afar, greeting her with a mischievous smile. The class president wondered if she was hallucinating from all the stress. That damn girl, how could she possibly show up outside my cram school? But in the very next instant, her eyes seemed to fill with blood. Because the boyfriend who hadn't replied all day was now standing behind Karma, coldly staring at her. The class president gripped her phone so hard her knuckles turned white as she stood up, making her desk and chair screech loudly. She couldn't care less about the teacher's scolding, staring in shock at the rooftop opposite, her body trembling uncontrollably. The other students turned to see what the class president was looking at. Just in time to catch sight of a boy and girl on the rooftop, gazing at each other with deep affection. The next moment, the boy suddenly pulled the girl's face to him and kissed her passionately. The students all exclaimed, "They're kissing on the rooftop, how romantic." Amid all the admiring voices, the class president's eyes widened, bloodshot with rage. No one knew how much time had passed before the French kiss finally ended. Oppa, I always thought you were an innocent boy who knew nothing, but I didn't expect you to be so aggressive. Very well, now it's my turn. As soon as the words left her lips, Karma pushed Shin Keelman down. He was caught off guard and fell onto the edge of the rooftop, almost tumbling over. Looking down at the dizzying height beneath his feet, Shin Keelman felt the world spin around him. At that moment, Karma straddled him directly. Don't be scared, Oppa. Have you ever heard of the suspension bridge effect? Your heart is racing right now, not because of the height, but because I'm on top of you. Shin Keelman's face flushed, his heart pounding wildly. Karma cupped his face and kissed him again. All of this was seen by the class president. Her heart hammered in her chest, threatening to explode. Her eyes widened in disbelief as tears of despair streamed down her cheeks. Just then, her phone suddenly vibrated. She lifted her hand to look, her boyfriend was calling. Clinging to a last shred of hope, she answered with trembling hands. But the only thing she heard was the sound of the two kissing. A few seconds later, Yoon Karma's sweet, malicious voice came through. Kissing your Oppa feels pretty great, you know. At this point, Shin Keelman looked utterly stunned, as if his soul had left his body. Karma, holding her phone, looked smug. Your Oppa is mine now. The class president finally cracked, unleashing a beast-like roar. The next moment, she shoved the teacher aside and stormed out of the classroom in a fury. Yoon Karma, I'm going to kill you. Her eyes blazed, and she charged down the hallway. Across the way, the two saw her charging like a madwoman. Karma grinned. Looks like the class president is really angry now. At her speed, she'll catch up in no time. We'd better hurry. You've seen how terrifying an angry class president can be, haven't you? The next second, Karma grabbed Shin Keelman's hand tightly. She flashed a brilliant smile. Run. Shin Keelman was stunned, his face instantly turning red. By the time the class president burst onto the rooftop, panting for breath, the two of them were already gone. Seething with rage, the class president clenched her fists, her shoulders slumping, her teeth almost grinding to dust as she roared, Yoon Karma, Shin Keelman. You bastards. I'm going to kill you. Meanwhile, the two who had just reached the bottom floor looked up to see the class president ranting at the rooftop's edge. She looked just like a fire-breathing ancient dragon. Shin Keelman was terrified. Is that really a human voice? Could it be the screech of a Jurassic pterosaur? He quickly lowered his head and shut his eyes, vowing to stay far, far away from the class president from now on. Karma, on the other hand, was thoroughly enjoying herself. This game of hide and seek is pretty fun. Maybe this is what they call eloping? The pure-hearted boy turned red all the way to his ears, cursing himself for his own reaction. To Karma, this is just about avenging her sister. But I like her more and more. Summoning his courage, he asked Karma what kind of boys she liked. Karma looked at him in confusion. Why are you asking this all of a sudden? I just want to know you better, that's all. I'm just curious. Karma gave a gentle smile. If I had to say, I like strong men. The scene cuts to her stepfather working out. He puts down the barbell and asks the chief about the progress of the NTR plan. The chief reports honestly, Karma did very well today. The surveillance team said the class monitor made a scene on the rooftop for 15 minutes before the guards took him away. We'll keep following up. Her stepfather nods in satisfaction. Karma makes the plans, you're in charge of execution. Well done. If only I'd had you protecting Hyena back then, instead of leaving her to those useless fools. The chief silently apologizes in her heart. Even if I'd been assigned to protect her, with the way things were, the ending wouldn't have changed. At that moment, her stepfather suddenly asks about Karma's whereabouts. He immediately replies, Karma is on her way home, there's something urgent she needs to report in person. Karma, who's been waiting, greets the two of them warmly as soon as she sees them. But the chief snaps at her, how many times do I have to say it? You need a cast on that arm. Even if you heal quickly and don't feel pain, skipping the cast will only make it worse. Karma complains that the cast is hot and stuffy. Before she can finish her excuse, her stepfather cuts her off. Do as the chief says. Alan immediately gives in obediently, I'll wear a cast to school tomorrow. The chief can't help grinding her teeth. Stubborn brat. You only ever listen to Mr. Lee. Her stepfather asks if there's anything else she wants to report privately. Alan lowers her voice and says that today she overheard a conversation between Song Yoon Jin and the class monitor. She has a feeling that Hyena might have been murdered. Her father's expression turns frightening at once. The chief can't hold back and bursts out, have you confirmed this? You can't throw words like that around lightly. Karma admits she hasn't verified it, but she did hear someone forcing another to jump off the rooftop, and the video she handed to the surveillance team also recorded it. As the two start arguing intensely, her stepfather suddenly feels dizzy, barely able to stand. Luckily, Karma reacts fast and catches him in a heartbeat. The chief rushes over, concerned. Are you all right? As I expected. There's no way Hyena would have killed herself. Karma leans in and whispers, I know it's probably not the best time to ask, but to cheer you up a little, may I ask if I could use the kitchen tonight? She looks her stepfather right in the eye after asking, as if awaiting a life or death verdict. Her stepfather mulls over the word kitchen. It's about time to repay some favors. Hyena owed the class monitor a lot when it came to food. Karma, I'll let you use the kitchen. Make sure the class monitor gets a good meal tomorrow. Karma perks up like a piranha smelling blood. Leave it to me. She turns, rolling her shoulders as she heads for the kitchen. She grabs a pair of pliers and a mystery bundle, excitement written all over her as she starts prepping dinner. The scene shifts. A tear-streaked girl struggles to hold back, then suddenly spits out a mouthful of intact cigarette butts, dozens of them, soaked in her saliva and stomach acid. The bullies burst out laughing at the miserable sight of her. Hyena couldn't stop coughing, and they jeered that she looked as disgusting as someone coughing up worms. Suddenly, the class president pulled out a pair of chopsticks. Let's see if you really threw it all up. She picked up the cigarette butts from the floor one by one with the chopsticks, and after counting them, exclaimed in delight, wow, you threw up the whole pack. Her perverse gaze fixed excitedly on Hyena. See? That proves nicotine really does induce vomiting. Our experiment is a huge success. The other bullies egged her on from behind, calling her a mad scientist. Hyena spoke coldly, hey, do you really feel accomplished doing this? Does bullying others make your life any better? Don't kid yourself. You're just cowards who can't stand up to anyone willing to fight back, so you take it out on the innocent. As miserable as you've made me, I have no regrets, because I dare to face you cowards who only pick on the weak. I have a clear conscience. That's how I deal with people like you. Instead of venting on me, why don't you stand up to your dad for once? The class president froze at those words, as if a viper had just been struck at its most vulnerable point. The next second, she exploded, kicking out with all the helplessness and rage inside her. The class president jolted awake from a nightmare, snapping upright, gasping for breath. Pressing a hand to her forehead, she wondered why, of all times, she had to dream of Lee Hyena now. She stared blankly at her own hand, then climbed out of bed. That's right, Hyena. I did take out all the pressure my father put on me, on you. But you know as well as I do, I wasn't the one who killed you. She muttered to the mirror, as if Lee Hyena were staring back at her with icy eyes. Every time I bullied you, I kept it under control. Aren't you tough? You could withstand my torment. I let off steam, and you got to stand tall on your moral high ground. If only we both could have ended up winners. It was all that devil Chae Shohyun's fault. She's the one who went too far. Collapsing, she hugged herself. That time on the rooftop too, I only did what she told me. In the end, the really awful things that happened up there weren't even my doing. It was all Chae Shohyun. Your death had nothing to do with me. So why don't you figure out a way to handle your hellish little sister? In the mirror, Hyena simply stared at her with that same cold indifference. When the class president went downstairs, her father asked if she'd overslept. She started, instantly snapping to attention. Her father sat with one leg crossed over the other, coffee in one hand and newspaper in the other. The class president could only bow her head and apologize. Her mother quickly pleaded on her behalf, begging her father not to be so harsh. After all, their daughter had ranked first in the whole school last time. What's so great about being top of your class if you're aiming for med school? A woman like you, who only got into college through donations, is the one who should be showing off. Her mother fell silent at once. Her father put down the newspaper, giving her a cold warning not to slack off. He stepped up to the class president, looking down at her. Especially a girl like you who's already caused trouble. School bullying, I nearly expelled you back then. It was only your mother's desperate pleading that stopped me. The class president lowered her head, biting her lip, her pupils trembling. I taught you taekwondo, you said you wanted to become a competitor, and you ended up using it to bully your classmates. I know all about the trouble you stirred up at the cram school yesterday. That look in your eyes, still the same as before. If you embarrass me again, you're finished for good. The class president tossed out a curt, going to the bathroom. Then rushed straight to the restroom, flipped open the toilet lid, and started vomiting. Something was seriously off about her today. She was shaking all over, crying nonstop. Song Yoon Jin and Karma both missed first period. No one knew what had happened, but everyone felt that someone ought to lay a bouquet of chrysanthemums on Song Yoon Jin's desk. The class president kept staring at a photo of herself and her boyfriend, tears streaming down her face. She'd blown her finals, her father would surely throw her out of the house. Her only support, her boyfriend, had also been snatched away by Karma. Now, I've got nowhere left to run. I'll kill Yoon Karma, then end it myself. Just then, Karma appeared, her arm in a cast, bright and radiant. The class president was instantly consumed by rage. Before she could even start shouting, Karma's eyes lit up, as if she'd spotted her favorite toy, and she hurried over. I've learned a new South Korean word. Want to hear it? By the way, your boyfriend is amazing. The class president clenched her teeth, eyes wide with humiliation, tears of disgrace rolling down her cheeks. She glared at Karma, raised her casted right arm, and issued a silent challenge. Karma grinned like a cat with cream, accepting at once. Let's go, meet me in the gym. The two of them entered the empty gymnasium, where piles of water bottles and a black sports bag sat in one corner. Karma glanced back, grinning. You like it here too, don't you? But you really are stubborn. Even after getting beaten so badly, you still want a rematch. The class president radiated murderous intent, spitting venom through her tears. You think I'd lose to a boxer with only one good arm? A wide open space like this is perfect for a flying kick. Today, I'm going to beat you to death, send you to hell, then follow you down. Let's die together. She hadn't even finished her threat when Karma's foot slammed into the back of her neck. The class president's eyes rolled up, her whole body spun like a top, twirling 80 times before she finally crashed near the podium, 20 meters away. She lay on the floor, frozen for a moment, then started to twitch and squirm. Karma was able to muster such power because her leg muscles were strong enough to squat 250 kilograms. Her fighting style was based in Muay Thai. Karma spoke coldly. When did you ever think I was a boxer? I told you in the lab, my specialty is kicking. The class president was still convulsing on the ground, able only to whimper softly. Karma went on. I was just toying with you in the lab. You really thought we were evenly matched? That's cute. I brought you here for another reason. She rummaged through her sports bag and pulled out a water bottle filled with deep green, round pellets. Just imagining your stomach stuffed full of this special formula makes my whole body tingle. I get so excited I can't stand it. The class president finally raised her head, body jolting as she heard this. Karma flashed a devilish smile. All right, taste test time. The class president didn't know what was in the bottle, but she could sense her life was in danger. She desperately tried to flee in the opposite direction from Karma, but no matter how she struggled, she couldn't get up. Clenching her teeth, she summoned all her strength, but still collapsed helplessly to the ground. Karma said, don't waste your energy. People I've kicked never last long. If you keep squirming, I'll just have to tie you up with my cast bandages. As she spoke, she loosened her splint and began unwinding the bandages in loops. Even if the chief gets mad at me. For the bigger picture, he should understand. In just a few swift moves, the class president was securely bound. Karma touched her nose, satisfied. Honestly, I wanted to wrap you up like a mummy, but the bandage is too short. This will have to do. I'm sure you understand. She completely ignored the class president's protests and cries of pain, grabbed her long hair, and began dragging her forward. Amid the president's shouting and yelling, they walked for an unknown length of time before finally coming to a stop. With a loud thud, Karma dumped the class president onto the ground, then eagerly rummaged through her gym bag. The class president watched in utter confusion, only to see several bottles of unidentified substances inside the bag. At that moment, Karma finally found what she was looking for. A length of rubber tubing. The class president's very own feeding aid, a full 2 meters long. The class president was so furious, she was lost for words. A rubber tube is not tableware. Are you insane? Karma explained that, knowing how stubborn the class president was, there was no way she'd eat what Karma offered willingly. So, with special care, she pulled out the rubber tube, intent on inserting it directly down the class president's throat, so the food could be delivered straight to her stomach. Don't be scared, just pretend you're having an endoscopy. If you understand, open your mouth. The moment the class president heard this, she clamped her mouth shut so tightly that not even air could get in. As long as I hold out, what can she possibly do to me? But Karma suddenly kicked the class president in the stomach, and in the instant her mouth opened from the pain, she deftly inserted the tube. The class president struggled with all her might, her throat emitting muffled protests. If you keep misbehaving, I'll tear your esophagus, Karma threatened. At those words, the class president immediately fell still. Karma carefully pushed the rubber tube deeper until it finally reached the stomach. A second later, the tube pressed against the stomach wall, sending a sharp pain through her. The class president shuddered, doubling over and coughing uncontrollably, whimpering as she did. Karma knew the tube had reached its destination, so she stood up to reassure the class president not to worry. Fighting back the pain, the class president looked up, only to see Karma holding a plastic bottle in one hand and the funnel-tipped rubber tube in the other. Karma grinned, special recipe, guaranteed to fill you up. With that, she poured the bottle's dark green pellets into the funnel. The unknown pellets rolled down the tube into the class president's stomach, reaching their destination in no time. Tears welled in the class president's eyes as her body convulsed, her belly swelling from the unfamiliar substance, still growing bigger. She was terrified. If she could at least taste it in her mouth, she could brace herself mentally. Now all she felt was her stomach being packed tight with hard pellets. The scariest thing for humans is the unknown. Her bulging stomach looked like it would burst through her clothes, forcing her to hunch over in discomfort, the sensation unbearable, as though her belly was about to explode. What on earth is she stuffing into my stomach? Karma finally finished pouring out one bottle, and immediately reached for the next. The class monitor hurriedly protested with her whole body, desperately trying to show she was at her limit. But Karma remained utterly calm. Don't worry, there are still 5 whole bottles left, rest assured, you'll get your fill. I was afraid you'd choke on the food, so I prepared an entire case of water just for you. Ready? The next bottle's coming up. What followed was the class monitor's miserable screams echoing through the gymnasium. In the end, she could only curl up on the ground, a pile of empty bottles scattered at Karma's feet. The class monitor's stomach bulged as if she were pregnant, trembling constantly, always on the verge of vomiting. Yoon Karma is ruthless. She actually forced down 6 bottles of unknown pellets and 3 liters of water. That's more than triple the capacity of a normal person's stomach. I wasn't even this cruel to Lee Hyena back then. I might really die from being stuffed today. Just as she finished complaining inwardly, the tube was yanked out. Class monitor, are you enjoying your meal? Gritting her teeth, the class monitor pushed herself up and asked Karma what exactly she had forced down her. Karma's lips curled in a smile as she began to explain. Dried kelp expands to 14 times its original size when it meets water. A piece of dried kelp the size of a palm can make soup for 40 people. If you treat dried kelp like a snack, in the end, you'll end up vomiting kelp non-stop and landing in the emergency room. There have even been North Korean refugees who ate piles of sun-dried kelp, and their stomachs literally burst from the inside. I've explained it this clearly, and you still can't guess what's in your belly? Dried kelp expands 14-fold when hydrated. So what do you think happens when 200 servings of dried kelp expand inside your stomach? That's right, the unknown substance in the class monitor's stomach was none other than Karma brand dried kelp pellets. She had pressed dried kelp into swallowable balls and stuffed them all into the class monitor's stomach. The very next second, the class monitor jerked her head back, and a torrent of kelp spewed out like a volcano. Before she could catch her breath, her stomach began to rumble again. She tried desperately to hold it in, but couldn't control it. Yet another pile of kelp spilled onto the floor. Her eyebrows knitted tight, tears streaming from the retching, her entire body trembling as waves of nausea crashed over her. No matter how hard she tried to endure, she was like a kelp manufacturing machine. One wave hadn't finished before the next began. No sooner had she thrown up, than fresh kelp surged up to take its place, over and over again. In just 3 minutes, the class monitor vomited 56 times. She muttered in terror to herself, "Why can't I stop?" Karma squatted down to watch her. Did you know there are 101 entries in Hyena Uni's diary just about throwing up? You've only vomited 50 times and you're already done? The debt you owe Hyena Uni, I'll make sure you pay it back with interest, every bit of it. We're just getting started. If you don't want your stomach to burst, you'd better hurry up and throw up. Just then, the class monitor's stomach rumbled again, as if some monster were struggling inside. Her eyes flew wide open, and the next second, another huge pile of kelp splattered to the ground. No matter how much she vomited, she couldn't get all the kelp out of her stomach. The class monitor was completely panicked. If she couldn't vomit faster than the kelp was expanding, her life would end here. I don't want to die from being stuffed, and I don't want to keep throwing up. What should I do? I'm going crazy. The class president desperately tried to suppress the urge to vomit. Her face turned a purplish blue from holding her breath. The next second, she suddenly shuddered, and a long column of kelp surged out from her throat, stuck fast at the back of her mouth. No matter how hard she coughed, the kelp wouldn't budge an inch. Karma cheered her on excitedly from the side. Before long, the kelp column began to break apart bit by bit, but the tough, rubbery section in the middle stayed stubbornly wedged in her throat, swelling larger and larger. Soon, the class president felt like she was about to suffocate. In her daze, she seemed to see Lee Hyena, face covered in blood, one hand yanking on the kelp, the other gripping her neck. Lee Hyena, have you come to take me away? At the edge of life and death, the class president finally managed a strangled cry for help, her single eye rolling back as she fainted. But how could Karma let her slip away so easily? With a textbook Heimlich maneuver, Karma jolted the class president back to consciousness, and she vomited up another huge pile of kelp. Karma leisurely wiped the kelp off her own head and said with a smile, "Relax, I'm not planning to let you see Hyena just yet." The class president couldn't hold on any longer, wriggling and begging for mercy. "I was wrong, I won't act arrogant ever again. Please, I'm begging you, let me go." "What's this? Weren't you just saying you'd drag me down with you? I thought you'd already made up your mind to go to hell. Don't disappoint me now." The class president sobbed, pleading, "At least call an ambulance. What's a hospital going to do besides keep you from suffocating? The only way you're getting out of this alive is to throw up everything in your stomach." Karma kicked her again, and another torrent of kelp spewed out. Before long, the entire gym was covered in kelp. In 35 minutes, the class president vomited a total of 382 times. Hands on her hips, Karma surveyed the results with satisfaction. Anyone who didn't know better would think this was a kelp farm. Overall, you've pretty much cleared your principal and interest. The class president hurried to flatter her. Thank you, Karma. I've paid off my debt. Will you forgive me now? What kind of nonsense are you spouting? You still owe a ton. Today you've barely cleared the debt you could throw up. There's the matter of making Hyena swallow cigarette butts and toilet paper, giving her stomach cancer, and driving her to jump off the roof. That bill hasn't even been touched. The class president blanched. How do you know about the roof? She recalled that day after school, when Song Yoon-jin had deliberately picked a fight with her. So it was true, Yoon Karma had been there too. At that moment, Karma picked up her sports bag, ready to leave. Debt collector Karma is off for now. As for the rest of what you owe, don't worry, I'll make sure you pay back every cent. The class president's pupils contracted, tears streaming even harder. And don't forget to clean up the gym on your way out. Don't make trouble for your classmates. It wasn't until Karma slammed the door shut that the class president dared to collapse onto the floor, breaking down with a scream. After leaving the gym, Karma immediately contacted her stepfather, who was on a business trip abroad, to ask if he'd received the video she'd sent. The stepfather praised, dried kelp balls, now that's an impressive dish. Karma was delighted to hear this. But honestly, as good as they are, they still can't compare to the last supper you created, stepfather. The stepfather sighed with a touch of emotion. The Revenge at Unro High is also reaching its finale. The personalities of the Song Yoon-jin siblings are about to be completely erased. It's time for Moon-jin's true final supper to begin. At that moment, Song Yoon-jin's parents arrived in front of the stepfather as well. The stepfather prepared to hang up the phone, ready to notify Karma at any moment that the grand finale was about to begin. As soon as Song's father walked in, he put on an ingratiating smile, showering Mr. Lee with compliments on his golf skills. The stepfather merely watched him perform in silence. Realizing no one was responding, Song's father could only force an awkward smile and dial it back a little. Mr. Lee's tone suddenly shifted, becoming stern. The Southeast Asia channel expansion I promised you before is now off the table. The Foundation's audit found that your financials don't meet the requirements. But don't be too discouraged. I have a better proposal for you. You probably know that our group has a subsidiary in Thailand, and they happen to be looking for a new supplier. President Song, do you want to keep making pocket change flipping goods, or would you rather consider setting up a factory in Thailand and becoming one of the group's main suppliers? Song's father was so excited he could barely remain seated. Of course I want to be a group supplier. That's a dream opportunity for everyone. But building a factory takes a lot of capital. About how much debt would I need to take on? Mr. Lee bowed his head in thought for a moment. It's true, it'll require a hefty investment. All told, about 20 billion. I can put up 10 billion as direct investment. We'll split the profits 50-50. How about it? I know it's a lot of pressure, but compared to the channel expansion, the profit margin here is much greater. And besides, becoming a group supplier, opportunities for steady income like this don't come often. Song's father stroked his chin in contemplation. According to their market research, the group's subsidiary in Thailand really was a premium asset, with business booming. Supplying such a company, missed this chance, and there might not be another. The biggest problem, though, was that the Song family truly didn't have much cash on hand. Even if they borrowed from every bank, they'd only be able to scrape together about 5 billion. Mr. Lee thought for a moment, then quickly offered a new suggestion. Didn't I give you that apartment worth over 5 billion last time? Let me introduce you to a reliable financial institution. If you mortgage the apartment and your house, and add your cash, you'll have just enough for the 5 billion. After hearing this, Song's father broke out in a cold sweat. Doing business that required mortgaging even their house, and taking out high-interest loans, was this really wise? Seeing his hesitation, Mr. Lee sweetened the deal. To be honest, this project was originally meant for another company, but because of our prior agreement, I'm offering it to you first. If you run into financial trouble midway, I'll help you as needed. All this will be written into the contract. Song's father's eyes widened at once when he heard this. No matter how wealthy Mr. Lee was, he wouldn't really throw away 10 billion just like that. Besides, that apartment worth 5 billion wasn't even Mr. Lee's personal property to begin with, so even if there was a loss, it wouldn't matter much. What's more, the client in this deal was Mr. Lee himself. It was like selling to his own family. The reason Mr. Lee was willing to invest so much was simply to win him over, so that they could join forces against Congressman Cha in the future. Miss this opportunity, and there might not be another. A man should have resolve. With that thought, Song's father quickly expressed his loyalty, promising that he would never let Mr. Lee down in the future. but Mr. Lee just calmly told him to go through the contract once more. Song's father burst out laughing. Of course, the contract will be according to your requirements. How could there be any traps? His words of praise were cut short when he realized something was off. The contract stipulated that if the funds were used for anything outside the agreement, he'd have to pay back double the principal. Wasn't that a bit too harsh? Mr. Lee explained unhurriedly, you know as well as I do, the group was once involved in a major corruption scandal. I was even summoned for a parliamentary inquiry. Ever since I was burned by betrayals both inside and outside the company, I now add strict penalty clauses to every contract. It's not aimed specifically at you, but rather a basic principle I uphold as an entrepreneur. Cold sweat broke out on Song's father's forehead. He quickly laughed it off, showering Mr. Lee with compliments about his wisdom and foresight. Mr. Lee cut him short. Enough with the flattery. Just sign the contract already. Song's father froze for a moment, feeling that there was definitely something fishy about the contract, but the huge potential profits made him reluctant to let go. He gritted his teeth and signed his name anyway, then respectfully handed the contract to Mr. Lee. If only he had looked up at his stepfather's expression at that moment, he wouldn't have ended up so miserable later on. After signing, Song's father mulled it over again and decided to speak from the heart. You should have hated me, yet you've given me such a great opportunity. I understand how much this means. From now on, I'll serve you loyally and carry out your every command. His stepfather nodded lightly. I understand. You can go now. Song's father bowed deeply in gratitude, nearly blurting out loud, thanks. The scene shifts elsewhere. Alone at home, Song Yoon-jin's face was clouded with worry. What was she going to do now? Just then, the doorbell suddenly rang. Her brother was in the hospital, her parents were abroad, no one was supposed to come today. Hearing it was a delivery, Song Yoon-jin remembered she'd ordered bear spray, specifically to deal with the monsters that were her class president and Karma. She happily ran to open the door, only for the cap-wearing delivery person to look up. It was Yoon Karma, that demon woman. She smiled sweetly and announced that Karma was coming in. Soon after, Karma was sitting in the kitchen, admiring the home's decor, while Song Yoon-jin, flustered and on the verge of tears, kept stealing anxious glances at her. Holding a glass of orange juice, she stammered, asking if she could have some. As a result, her hand kept shaking, and the orange juice spilled everywhere, right at Karma's feet, of all places. Karma, speechless, are you hoping I'll get down and lick it clean? Song Yoon-jin trembled so hard she was nearly in tears, hurriedly apologized, and said she'd pour her another glass. Karma chuckled softly, saying she only drank chocolate milkshakes, and told her to sit down and behave. Song Yoon-jin, curious, asked if she was working at a delivery station. Why else was she dressed in a courier uniform? Karma laughed. Blame our lovely chihuahua. If Yoon-jin saw my face on the intercom, you probably wouldn't have let me in. Song Yoon-jin nearly rolled her one good eye, then blurted out a foolish question. You're not here to steal my package, are you? If it's worth anything, maybe I would. Song Yoon-jin panicked, quickly assuring her it was just bear spray, totally worthless. But there aren't any wild bears in South Korea, so why'd you buy this stuff? Planning to use it on your good friend Karma instead? Song Yoon-jin hurried to explain, saying she was only trying to lighten the mood with a joke. It's just the Korean way of being a good host. Karma immediately put on a friendly smile. Ah, looks like I really don't understand Korea yet. Just then, the doorbell rang. The real courier had arrived. Getting no answer, the courier knocked and shouted, signature required. Is anyone home? Karma stopped Song Yoon-jin and turned on the intercom. I'm home, but I don't remember ordering anything. Can you tell me what's in it? The courier answered honestly. It was bear spray. Karma's face darkened instantly as she looked at her. Song Yoon-jin began to shake with fear. Karma smiled and told the courier to just leave the package at the door. Song Yoon-jin pleaded, Karma, I'm sorry, please don't kill me. Karma raised a hand, placed it gently on her head, and soothed her slowly. Song Yoon-jin was completely baffled. What was happening? Don't be scared, I get it. How terrified must our Yoon-jin have been to buy something like this? I won't bully you anymore. Even that bully of a class monitor, I've already avenged you. I've also told her little sidekicks not to pick on you again, so you can come to school without worry, okay? After hearing this, Song Yoon-jin suddenly stood up and flung Karma's hand away. You still think I'm some kind of idiot? Last time you also said you wanted to be friends, then made me wear a dog leash and eat dog food. Get out of my house right now, or I'll call Uncle Hat. Karma still looked earnestly at the trembling Yoon-jin. Looks like I really scared you this time. You really don't know why your dad went to Thailand? Today's actually the day our families sign a business deal. From now on, we're family. If I dare bully you again, my stepdad would kill me. Song Yoon-jin looked like she wasn't quite sure whether to believe her. She had a sudden realization. For someone as brazen as Karma, Who could barge into my house and even knew my parents were abroad, now that I was the only one home? With her personality, she would never pass up a chance to bully me. That left only one possibility. It wasn't that she didn't dare, but that she couldn't. Song Yoon-jin silently gave her father a thumbs up in her heart. It must have been the result of his negotiations with Lee Myung-jun. With this in mind, she agreed to go to school tomorrow. Mission accomplished. Karma arranged to meet her the next day. Song Yoon-jin had already started fantasizing about returning to school and walking the class president like a dog. Those people who always look down on me, just wait for your queen's arrival. At that moment, Karma's excited voice shattered her daydream. I'm dying to know what happens when you spray bear repellent on a person. Can I try it out on you? Just once, okay? The gym, which should have belonged to the students, turned into a tacky photo exhibition every night. The organizer of this exhibition was none other than Yoon-jin's gangster brother. She had bribed the school security guard to project the photo books of Hyena and 4 other girls onto the big screen. Each ticket sold for 70,000 won. One thug thought looking at photos wasn't enough. Why not see the real thing? The school bully feigned reluctance and said seeing the real thing wasn't impossible. That was when it was time to ask for more money. Song Yoon-jin rushed in and shouted at her brother, "You should take pin-up photos of that brat who talks smack about me too." The school bully looked utterly disgusted. Who'd want photos of a girl as ugly as an orc? Look at our Hyena, now that's style. She even told Song Yoon-jin to bring in more pretty girls so she could have more pocket money. Hearing this, Song Yoon-jin went straight to Hyena. "Thanks to you, I got a new bag. You're my brother's biggest cash cow out of all the girls. Keep it up, okay? Keep supporting my allowance in the future." They acted so brazenly because they threatened those girls. As long as anyone spoke out about the exhibition, the photos would go viral on every major online platform and be sent straight to their family and friends. All these materials had been collected by their stepfather. On the phone, the stepfather continued giving Karma instructions. "I've already identified 218 scumbags who bought the photo books. Some ex-con drifter will ruin their vital parts. Karma, the task of judging the Song siblings is yours. You must hold the ceremony of character execution in the very place where we once suffered." The next day, Song Yoon-jin sat by the basketball court, her gaze following a gray-haired boy. Karma suddenly appeared, teasing her. "Looks like our Yoon-jin is in love." Song Yoon-jin was startled by her sudden appearance and asked how she got there. Karma said, "Even though you only missed 1 day of school, I was worried you wouldn't adjust, so I've been watching you. And then I discovered, you've fallen in love?" Song Yoon-jin hurriedly denied it, but Karma leaned in and asked, "Do you have a crush on that gray-haired senior?" Yoon-jin was shocked. "How did you know?" "All I had to do was ask your 2 little sidekicks. I heard you liked him from the very first day of school. As your best friend, I'll absolutely support your love." But Song Yoon-jin still kept her head down and said nothing. Seeing this, Karma sat down beside her, and offered to help set her up with the senior. "Don't judge me by appearances, I never failed as a matchmaker back in North Korea." Of course, she had never done such a thing. Karma was all confidence. "Don't worry, I'll be sure to shoot Cupid's arrow for you too." Song Yoon-jin was speechless. She had no idea what this crazy woman was up to this time, and just hoped she wouldn't literally shoot someone with an arrow. Yesterday, Karma had just promised not to bully Song Yoon-jin anymore, but then immediately insisted on testing out bear spray. Song Yoon-jin had long since realized Karma never spoke a single word of truth. In fact, Song Yoon-jin hadn't planned on coming to school at all. It was Karma's bizarre messages that convinced her. She just had a feeling that if she didn't show up, something bad would happen. And now, this lunatic was dead set on playing matchmaker, and there was no way she had good intentions. Karma waited for a long time, but Song Yoon-jin still wouldn't speak. Finally, she lost her patience. "Hey, why aren't you saying anything? Didn't I say I'd help set you up?" Song Yoon-jin was on the verge of tears. The scene shifted. A group of boys were horsing around in a classroom, when a stunningly beautiful girl suddenly appeared at the door. The guy in just shorts scrambled to cover his most important parts, while Karma's gaze never left the gray-haired senior. Someone recognized her as the student who'd transferred from North Korea. He couldn't help but comment, "But up close, she really is gorgeous." Karma didn't glance aside, striding calmly past the gray-haired senior. The gray-haired senior stared straight ahead as she walked toward him. "Hello, senior. I'm Karma from class 6, year 1. Sorry to bother you, but I have something I'd like to discuss." The boys' class immediately erupted, and even gray hair looked a little in disbelief. He asked eagerly, "What do you want to talk about?" Just thinking about what she was about to say made Karma want to laugh, but she kept her composure. "My friend has liked you for a long time. She's planning to confess to you at the gym, so I really hope you'll go." The boys' class instantly burst into festive excitement. It was like seeing an internet drama play out in real life. Gray hair clutched his head and pretended to be troubled. "Who's going to confess?" Karma smiled sweetly. A confession should have a little mystery, it's more fun that way. You'll find out when you get there. You really have to come, senior. My friend's been preparing for ages. With that, Karma politely excused herself. The sight left gray hair completely stunned. He felt his face start to burn. His classmates immediately crowded around. Didn't know you were such a pro with girls. So this is how far you've gone, you have to go. Gray hair pretended to run his hands through his hair in distress, but in truth, he was over the moon inside. Then, the boys rushed around spreading the news, and the girls, having heard about it as well, all ran over to join the fun. A huge crowd of curious boys and girls followed behind gray hair, eager to watch the spectacle. The boys flung open the gym doors with an air of aggression, but the scene before them left gray hair instantly bewildered. There was Song Yoon-jin, wearing a dog-ear headband and a collar, kneeling on the floor with tears in her eyes, her face painted like a puppy. The boys all stood frozen. Did confessions really have to go this far now? But gray hair felt something was off about the atmosphere. There wasn't a hint of romance in the air. Because the girls nearby were all busy taking photos, and to everyone's surprise, the ever-mocking Song Yoon-jin had finally tripped up herself. Not far away, Karma watched with satisfaction, and pressed play on her laptop. A romantic love song instantly filled the gym from the speakers. The giant screen behind Yoon-jin began playing a video, while people in the audience all raised their phones to record, and some even egged Yoon-jin on to perform a talent. Song Yoon-jin bit her lower lip hard, looking like she was making a difficult choice. The next second, she closed her eyes and started barking wildly like a dog, while a love confession letter appeared on the big screen. I'm the campus celebrity Chihuahua, Yoon-jin, and I've been silently watching you, senior, since the start of school. A boy in the crowd shouted, that's some high-level illustration art right there. Yoon-jin continued to bark in earnest, I like you so much, senior, that even your house walls are marked with my scent. The students all burst into laughter, nearly doubling over, while gray hair alone was on the verge of collapse. A girl teased from the side, a love that crosses species, how moving. Yoon-jin kept barking with all her might, while translated captions appeared simultaneously behind her on the big screen. Isn't my confession adorable? I want to stay in your arms forever and be your exclusive puppy. Will you be my master? Karma watched the chaotic scene below, smiling with delight, while on stage, Yoon-jin was trembling with rage, gritting her teeth. She couldn't help but recall half an hour earlier, when Karma had pulled out the props and made her confess dressed as a dog. How much longer are you going to torture me? You said last time if I provoked Moonjin into hitting me, you'd delete the photos. Just yesterday at my place you said you wouldn't bully me anymore, but you haven't kept a single promise. I won't believe you again. Weren't you the one who refused the offer to get the photos deleted if the class president hit you? Yesterday I said I wouldn't bully you at school, but did I say anything about not bullying you at home? Besides, helping a friend confess and making her cuter, how is that bullying? Trust me, I just want to match you two up and give you a sweet memory of youth. As long as you cooperate, I'll delete all the photos. Thinking of this, Song Yoon-jin lifted her head, looking at gray hair with hope. She wondered, would senior think I'm unexpectedly cute? But gray hair looked up, his eyes filled with nothing but impatience and anger. This is so humiliating, can't believe I'm being dragged into dog business. Hearing her beloved say those words, Song Yoon-jin's tears slid down her cheeks in an instant. And her appearance at that moment was broadcast live for her gangster brother in the hospital to see. Not long ago, the doctor had informed the school bully that he would undergo testicular reconstruction surgery today, so they needed to take some photos. The nurses immediately came over to take off his pants. His limbs had all been broken by Karma, he couldn't move at all. The process of undressing made the school bully's face bulge with veins from the pain, and he nearly passed out. He gritted his teeth and swore that once he was discharged, he would kill that wretched woman, Yoon Karma. Who knows how long he endured, but finally, the doctor said they were done. But what was set up in front of his bed wasn't medical equipment, but a tripod and a cell phone. The school bully was completely confused. What kind of hospital takes photos with a cell phone? The doctor, impatient, said, do you really expect us to get you a 4K camera? Quit whining, be a man. With that, the doctor turned and walked out, leaving the school bully yelling after him. Before leaving, he even thoughtfully turned on the TV for him, so he wouldn't get bored. When the school bully turned his head, the screen showed his own little sister acting like a dog. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What on earth is this silly girl doing? But the next second, he realized something was wrong. Why would his sister be in the hospital room? On TV, the whole confession scene had just finished playing. The school bully was so furious his face twisted. Song Yoon-jin, what are you doing? Meanwhile, in the gym, students who didn't understand what was happening thought things had gone too far and began to leave one after another. Those who remained were all students who had a grudge against the Song siblings. Karma's lips curled into a smile. She thought her stepfather had chosen the perfect moment. She pressed the play button again. The subtitles read, "The song's siblings sexually exploited 5 girls, 2 of whom committed suicide under the pressure." The male students buzzed with discussion. They'd heard rumors about the school bullies' sexual crimes, but never imagined it was this bad. Now, the character execution ceremony for the song's siblings was officially underway. The same subtitles appeared in front of the school bully. He stared at the cell phone before him, a sense of dread growing inside. The school bully was completely panicked now, just as Karma mercilessly hit the play button. Uncensored photos of Yoon Jin and the school bully appeared in full view on the big screen. Both siblings froze in shock. The school bully suddenly let out a piercing scream. The first-year boss pointed at the screen and burst out laughing. The bully's balls really are done for. So the rumors were true. Look at him now, with all 4 limbs crippled, can't even cover himself. This is hilarious. Even the girls excitedly took out their phones to snap pictures to remember the moment. At that moment, tears of humiliation streamed down the school bully's face. He roared with rage, "I'm going to kill every last one of you." Just then, Karma suddenly appeared on the screen, telling him to calm down in the hospital. "So, who exactly are you planning to kill?" Her gaze flicked downward. "Oh wow, some things really were beyond repair. I've used your favorite media broadcasting technique to perfectly convey the theme of karmic retribution. As an artist, how do you feel about that? Yoon Karma, I'll never let you get away with this." At that moment, Song Yoon Jin screamed, "Stop watching." She tried to shield the screen with her small body. But none of her classmates paid any attention. Instead, they all raised their phones to take pictures as a memento. "Yoon Karma, this isn't what you promised me, you liar." Karma only gave a cold smile. Mission accomplished. Now, she had to make a quick exit before the teacher arrived. As the USB drive was pulled out, the hospital room's TV reverted to static. The school bully shouted toward the door, "You filthy girls, get out here." No sooner had he spoken than the door was flung open. 2 nurses burst in like they were running an 800-meter sprint, with the doctor close behind, grinning wickedly, brandishing a syringe as long as an arm, and plunged it hard into the bully's neck. Once everything was ready, the doctor called the stepfather. It turned out she was the mother of Jill, one of the 5 victimized girls. After her daughter was hurt by the school bully, she suffered a mental breakdown and took her own life. And Jill's mother had 15 years of surgical experience. The stepfather had arranged for her transfer to the group's hospital specifically for this day. Now, the bully's whole body had gone limp, waiting only for the stepfather's word for the Song family's final downfall. Like a bloodthirsty demon, the doctor mused, "I honestly don't even know how to thank you for your immense kindness." "Don't say that, Jill's mom. We're allies in victimhood. Though no one can share the pain of losing a child, the taste of personal vengeance is all the sweeter when shared. Enjoy it to the fullest. Leave the aftermath of the surgery to me. Mr. Lee, rest assured, I will personally send him to hell." The stepfather was satisfied. "I'll leave it to you, Jill's mom." The doctor changed into scrubs, then feigned concern as she asked the school bully how he was feeling. He couldn't even speak, only groaning in an effort to let her know he hadn't been anesthetized. She understood at once. "You mean you're still lucid?" "Of course you are. Because what I injected wasn't anesthetic, it was a muscle relaxant. You can't move because your muscles are completely relaxed. So the pain that's coming, you'll experience every bit of it, down to the last shred. Normally, this would cause you to suffocate as your breathing muscles go slack. But you don't need to worry about dying. Because Jill's older sister and aunt will put you on a ventilator in time. And don't worry about pain-induced shock killing you either. With my 15 years of surgical experience, I'll be monitoring your vitals every second. I'll use every skill I have to stretch out the surgery as long as possible. I'll make sure you feel agony like dying, every single second. Enough talk. Testicular reconstruction, no, the no anesthesia version, begins now." The school bullies seemed to see Hyena and Jill, their faces streaked with blood and tears, grinning at him with a chilling smile. At that moment, Song's father suddenly burst into his daughter's room. The scene before him made his heart stop. He saw his daughter slashing her wrists, blood splattered across the floor. Song's father summoned all his strength to knock the utility knife from her hand. Gripping her arms tightly, he roared, "Song Yoon Jin, what are you doing? Why would you do something so extreme?" The words had barely left his mouth before he realized something was wrong. There were more bandages on his daughter's face than before. At that moment, Song Yoon Jin finally found someone she could lean on, and broke down in tears. One by one, she poured out all her grievances. Karma forced her to take nude photos as blackmail to keep her silent, walked her around the campus like a dog, ordered her minions to bully her. She was forced to approach the class president, only to be beaten up, even had someone break into her house and spray her with bear repellent. She was made to confess like a dog, and the whole humiliating scene, along with her brother's ordeal, was recorded by her classmates. Song's mother covered her face in disbelief, unable to accept that her daughter had endured so much torment. Song's father's eyes blazed with fury. "Lee Myung-jun, I'm going to kill you." In a rage, Song's father started making phone calls. But no matter how many times he dialed, no one answered. He slammed the phone down in anger, cursing the reporter as a bastard for not picking up at a time like this. He grabbed his coat and rushed out, determined to find the journalist himself. Song Yoon-jin and Song's mother hurried after him. Song's mother, bewildered, asked, "Where are we going?" Song's father snapped at her, "To the hospital. Aren't you his mother? Shouldn't you check if your son's alright? Use your brain. Our son's being photographed in the hospital. Those bastards will definitely make a fuss over the surgery. We have to get him out of there fast." After that, they split up. Song's father headed to the TV station to find a reporter and expose the truth, while Song's mother rushed to the hospital to save the school bully. Soon, the chief also received word from the surveillance team. At that moment, Song's father was driving across the bridge, repeatedly trying to make phone calls, but never getting through. As it turned out, the previous night, the chief had secretly snuck into the couple's bedroom and installed a Trojan horse on their phones. This made the phone appear to be dialing, but in reality, the calls never went through. Not only that, but their phones could no longer connect to the internet. In short, they were completely cut off from the outside world. Only Mr. Lee's phone still worked. At that moment, Mr. Lee's phone rang. Mr. Lee glanced at his phone and received instructions from the chief. It was time to head to the designated location. Just as Mr. Lee answered the call, Song's father's furious voice exploded through the line, "You bastard." Mr. Lee replied with a cold, sardonic humor, "President Song, you've dialed the wrong number. I'm not a bastard. My name is Lee Myung-jun. Shut up. My daughter slit her wrists." "Is that so? My daughter jumped off a building. So you finally show your true colors. You came here for revenge from the very start, didn't you? But don't think you can hold me back with that lousy contract. Just tear it up. If you're not happy, go ahead and sue me. Do you know where I'm headed right now? I'm almost at HBS headquarters. All this time, it's only been your group taking hits from the media. Now it's your turn. HBS just needs to paint you alone as the villain, piece of cake. Just me as the villain? Seems like you know deep down your children are the real source of trouble. So what if they are? You're the one who raised your daughter to be so reckless, aren't you? What's wrong with you? Do you even know whose daughter you've messed with? That's my daughter, the daughter of the president of Lingyun Trading Company." In the heat of his anger, Song's father didn't notice the massive truck coming from the side. The next second, the truck slammed straight into the car, sending it spinning and flipping several times before it finally came to a halt. The vehicle was reduced to a mangled heap of scrap metal. Barely 2 seconds later, an ambulance miraculously arrived. As the ambulance doors swung open, the chief himself stepped out. He adjusted his suit and calmly asked, "Is he still alive? The boss wants to see him breathing." The one-eyed man grinned confidently. "We're professionals when it comes to these kinds of accidents. Speed, angle, force, all calculated precisely. The driver's a former pro racer, and we've already arranged someone to take the fall for him. You can trust a pro's reflexes. As for the guy in the car, he's in exactly the half-dead state you requested." Song's father clawed his way out of the door, collapsing onto the ground, utterly spent. The one-eyed man, hands in his pockets, boasted, "When it comes to this kind of job, no one beats Little Han. All right, take him to see my boss." Not long after, Song's father was dumped in front of Mr. Lee, who was holding a giant sledgehammer. Seeing him, Mr. Lee stood up, hefting the hammer. "You still managed to come see me in that condition? I have to give you credit for effort." Blood trickled down Song's father's forehead. He shook with rage. "So what if you're a chaebol? You think you can break the law and get away with it?" Mr. Lee remained indifferent. "That's an interesting question. There are two funny things about it. Everyone knows Assemblywoman Che treats lives like toys, inflicting pain at will, yet look how well he's doing. And now you're asking if I'll get away unscathed?" Mr. Lee crouched down to meet President Song's gaze. "Second question, tell me, do you think a father who's lost his only daughter can ever live the rest of his life with a clear conscience?" Song's father shuddered, his jaw clenched, but he had no words. Then, Mr. Lee told the chief to bring over President Song's phone, saying there was something amusing to show him. He held the phone in front of Song's father's face. "What you're seeing now is Lingyun Trading's account balance. Open your eyes wide and take a good look at what's left." President Song froze. "How could this be? How is there not a single cent left in the company account?" Mr. Lee's voice was icy. "Because just this afternoon, you transferred all the company's funds out and secretly bought cryptocurrency." President Song cried out in desperation, "What virtual currency? I never invested in any of that." Of course, the person who carried it out knew exactly how wrongly accused Song's father was. But on the surface, this mess of an account is all you're doing. Mr. Lee stopped explaining and signaled for the chief to clarify the details. When the bodyguard and I were in Thailand, we snuck into your and your wife's room in the middle of the night and secretly installed Trojan horses on your phones. This afternoon, we transferred the entire 10 billion in your account to a virtual currency exchange. The exchange received the funds and immediately ran off with the money. Song's father, unwilling to give up, pressed the exchange manager. That 10 billion, does it mean? Mr. Lee picked up the thread. Yes, that money will pass through a complex network, and eventually end up in my hands. But that's not the point. The point is, now everyone will think it was you who used investors' money to speculate in crypto, and ended up losing everything. According to the contract we signed yesterday, you owe me double compensation on the principal. That is to say, besides returning the embezzled 10 billion, you owe me another 20 billion. President Song roared, you obviously took my phone and operated it yourselves. How can such a contract even be valid? Mr. Lee laughed out loud. If you can really prove your phone was hacked, of course it wouldn't count as a breach of contract. But today, the chief will erase every trace of our intrusion right in front of you. And I will make sure you're dealt with just as cleanly. Afterwards, the outside world will only hear that President Song secretly embezzled 10 billion of investors' money, lost it all on crypto, and died in a collision with a truck while fleeing. Congratulations, President Song, you'll be leaving your unfilial children over 100 billion in assets, though the number is negative. Hearing this, Song's father gripped Mr. Lee's pant leg with his bloody hands, desperate. If they don't inherit, they won't have to pay the debt. And my wife is still alive, won't she suspect something about my death? Mr. Lee replied coldly, no need to worry, your wife is already waiting for you on the road to the afterlife. Mr. Lee raised the hammer. As for relinquishing the inheritance, do you remember the loan shark I introduced you to? Guess what, do you think professional debt collectors have ways to make your family's renunciation of inheritance invalid? You haven't seen how truly vicious society can be. No matter how strong they are, for the rest of their lives they'll live worse than orphans. When Song's father heard this, he completely broke down. Tears streamed down his face as he begged Mr. Lee for mercy. Obviously Congressman Cha and Chief Han are even crueler. Why do you have to push me to the edge? Mr. Lee's voice was like glass on the verge of shattering, echoing coldly. Because you called my daughter a whore. Did you think I didn't know anything? The only reason your heartless son got off scot-free was because he forced the victimized girl to accept that hush money, then pressured the judge together with Congressman Cha. In the end, your son just got a suspended sentence, but my daughter became a prostitute in the eyes of the law, with a criminal record. And you still have the nerve to insult my dead hyena? You still think you have the right to call me cruel? At this moment, Song's father was utterly consumed by despair. The one-eyed man clapped his hands, reminding Mr. Lee that it was time to move on to the next phase. Now, let me show you all how to disguise a crime as an accident. Take, for example, a car crash. If you smash with a sledgehammer at a spot inconsistent with the impact, the coroner will notice the flaw during the autopsy. Suddenly, the one-eyed man lowered his head, and stomped hard on Song's father's already shattered leg. The pain made tears stream down Song's father's face, his scream ripping through the night. So the key is to hit the parts that are already broken, let him die from the pain, that's all. Mr. Lee listened, dragging the sledgehammer along the ground, leaving a trail of sparks. President Song, back in Thailand you said. You were willing to serve me, to follow my orders. Then help me by going to the afterlife, and give my regards to Hyena. Blood splattered in the moonlight. The once pristine hammer was now drenched in crimson. At last, Mr. Lee had purged his rage, his entire body spattered with blood. He loosened his taut tie, and burst into laughter. Even more exhilarating than I imagined. The chief was startled by the boss he saw before him. Though this was my revenge, all I could do was stand by and watch. It feels good, actually, to get a bit of a warm-up in the process. He turned to the one-eyed man and asked, is this all right? The one-eyed man nodded, he would clean up the mess. Mr. Lee told the chief he was going to rest and asked him and the one-eyed man to take care of the aftermath. With that, he patted the chief's shoulder with his blood-stained hand, then strode away with a flourish. The chief looked down at the blood on his suit, a storm of emotions swirling inside him. The one-eyed man burst out laughing. It's been a long time since I met such an interesting boss. Chief, looks like we'll be working together a lot from now on. Take care of me, alright? The chief's face showed nothing but resistance, his eyes full of disgust. Just then, a bodyguard behind him suggested he go outside for some air, while the rest would handle the cleanup. At last, the chief's exhaustion showed. He thanked them and stepped outside. He lit a cigarette, brows furrowed in thought. Mr. Lee has changed so much. When Miss was still here, he was always so sunny. Of all the people I know, he had the most integrity. Even many executives would seek his advice in private. He was nothing like his ambitious younger brother, he always fulfilled his duties to the group with absolute loyalty. Everyone thought he'd be the next to take the helm. He worked 10 hours a day, but always made time every week to take Miss out for fun. Mr. Lee was an outstanding entrepreneur, and a devoted father. What moved me most was that, even to someone as insignificant as me, he never hesitated to lend a hand. Someone so upright and decent, how did he end up like this? I once swore I'd dedicate everything I had to him, but now, is what I'm doing really right? Or am I just standing by, watching him fall deeper into the abyss? He stared at the cigarette in his hand, locked in inner turmoil. Don't overthink it. Right now, this is the crucial moment as Mr. Lee's first act of revenge comes to a close. At the very least, for now, I must become the blade in his hand. Soon, the Song couple's funeral was held as scheduled. And the one presiding over the funeral was none other than their daughter, who had just entered high school. Everyone looked at Song Yoon-jin, her arm in a cast, and the mourners whispered among themselves, "Where did President Song's son go? I heard his son was hospitalized a few days before the accident." Such a happy family, broken to pieces just like that. That girl was in the back seat at the time, she saw her mother die in the crash with her own eyes. She's just a child, how tragic. Someone found the couple's death suspicious and suspected that Mr. Lee had a hidden hand in it. Another person retorted, if it were Lee Myung-jun, he'd squeeze every last drop out of President Song first, that'd be more profitable. Moving this fast would only hurt his own interests. At this point in time, only Assemblyman Cha has a motive to strike. Assemblyman Cha has been targeting the Lee group ever since they backed the opposition party. President Song used to be one of Assemblyman Cha's men. But then he turned around and cozied up to Lee Myung-jun, who could swallow that? Someone else offered a different opinion, you're all too hung up on that 10 billion won President Song pocketed. I heard his kids even bullied Lee Myung-jun's daughter. If there's really something suspicious about the couple's death, then the one most likely to act is a father who lost his daughter, seeking revenge with blood and tears. Just then, Mr. Lee suddenly appeared behind them. Excuse me, may I get through? Surrounded by bodyguards, he strode through the wary crowd, exuding an intimidating aura as he headed for the altar. Song Yoon-jin's eyes widened, her body trembling uncontrollably. She stared at Mr. Lee, tears brimming in her eyes. Mr. Lee looked down at her from above, straightening his cuffs, his gaze as cold as if he were staring at trash. This man killed my parents. I have to tell the mourners. She clenched her teeth, struggling to speak. This group. But under the chilling stares of the chief and the bodyguard, Song Yoon-jin was so terrified she couldn't utter a single word. At that moment, a large hand rested on her shoulder. Mr. Lee's authoritative voice sounded in her ear. Yoon-jin, you must be feeling terrible. Losing your parents at such a young age, there are no words for that kind of pain, are there? Song Yoon-jin's eyes grew even rounder, her teeth clenched, but not a sound came out. Mr. Lee, in a tone as if comforting a relative, said, as someone who's also lost his wife and daughter, Uncle understands your pain. But Yoon-jin, you have to be strong. Suddenly, he leaned in close to Yoon-jin's ear and whispered, because the real suffering is only just beginning. Your dad took my 10 billion won, plus another 10 billion he borrowed from loan sharks, and used it all to gamble on crypto. As your father's close friend, I originally planned to use the profits from our partnership to help him fill that hole. But your dad didn't even give me that much time, he left so suddenly. From now on, you'll have to earn money for your paralyzed brother's medical bills. Maybe you'll even have to scramble just to survive, and rest will become a luxury. But no matter how bitter or hard life gets, you can't give up. Because I never want to witness a tragedy like hyenas again. As your uncle, I'll be watching you closely, making sure you don't stray down the wrong path. Song Yoon-jin's pupils contracted, she clenched her teeth, trembling all over. But Mr. Lee turned his head to look at the memorial portraits of that couple. Yoon-jin, when you look at these photos, what do you feel inside? Doesn't just looking at them set your heart ablaze with torment? Our hyena once smiled like that in her own frame, too. He leaned in closer to Yoon-jin, whispered into her ear so only the two of them could hear. Uncle here, do you understand now, the pain of losing someone you love? Song Yoon-jin froze, turned to look at the memorial photos, and saw her mother's smiling face in the frame. Suddenly, her mother's eyes widened, lifeless and hollow. Then, blood tears began to stream down from those eyes. In the blink of an eye, the image shifted, now it was Lee Hyena's bloodied portrait, grinning at her in a twisted, vengeful way, like a ghost come to claim her life. Song Yoon-jin let out a terrified, shrill scream, and ran out of the mourning hall in panic. Karma, meanwhile, sat alone in the bedroom, nearly bursting with anger. My stepfather is just too much, he left me at home and only took the chief to the funeral. I stayed up for days because I was nervous about attending my first Korean funeral, agonizing over what to wear. Thinking this, she wiped away a tear, feeling utterly wronged. Step-parents just don't get a young girl's heart. But after a moment, she tried to see it from his perspective. My stepfather went to the funeral this time to savor his first taste of revenge, to personally witness Yoon Jin's despair. If I went, it might just distract him. Even though I'm a little hurt, I should step aside to let him enjoy it to the fullest. Elsewhere, Yoon Jin's grandmother questioned her stepfather, asking what he'd whispered to her granddaughter just now. The stepfather merely shook his head pitifully, as if to say he hadn't said a thing. Yoon Jin. Maybe she just can't accept the reality of losing both her parents yet. At that moment, Yoon Jin, panting heavily, ran onto a busy shopping street. She tripped over her own feet, and fell flat on the ground, gritting her teeth in pain. Just then, a voice called out behind her, "Little girl, are you okay?" Song Yoon Jin looked back in confusion, only to see Hyena's face streaked with tears of blood. Yoon Jin was so frightened she nearly lost her soul, covering her head with her uncasted hand, screaming and apologizing over and over. "I was wrong. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." The kind passerby standing next to her stared in bewilderment. Song Yoon Jin's revenge outcome report: psychogenic hallucinations caused by the trauma of losing both parents and overwhelming life pressure. The perpetrator's revenge is complete. Meanwhile, the school bully had just woken up from surgery. His eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging across his face, his whole body contorted in agony. The doctor strolled over, hands in his pockets, and spoke with maddening calm. "Ah, you're finally awake? I have some very bad news for you. Because of a miscommunication in our medical team, there was a serious medical mishap. By accident, we ended up removing both of your balls." The school bully erupted in fury as soon as he heard this, roaring, "What medical accident? You crazy women, you clearly refused to give me anesthesia on purpose, then spent hours slicing at my balls with a scalpel." The doctor only pushed up his glasses, made an international gesture, and replied calmly, "It seems the patient's anesthesia hasn't worn off yet, leading to persecutory delusions. It's rare, but considering the surgical site, it's understandable. You think I'll believe your crap? When my dad comes back, I'll make sure you all go to jail." At last, the doctor couldn't hold back a laugh. The school bully, veins bulging on his neck, asked with irritation, "What's so funny?" The doctor wiped away tears of laughter and told him cheerfully, "Feel free to sue, but do you even have the money for a lawsuit? You should be more worried about your medical bills. Because your parents died in a car accident, and left you with several billion in debt. If you don't believe me, call your lovely little sister, who's currently hosting their funeral. The burial is tomorrow, and she'll probably come get you so you can say your last goodbyes. And right now, all 4 of your limbs are broken, you're at a critical stage of recovery. But now you're an orphan, weighed down by billions in debt, do you really think you'll be able to focus on rehab?" With that, the doctor left with a hearty laugh, leaving the crippled school bully raging on the hospital bed. But no matter how he screamed, no one paid him any attention. The next second, his hand slipped, and he toppled straight out of bed, meeting the floor up close and personal. He was completely stunned, parents gone, billions in debt, but right now, the most urgent thing was, could someone please help him up first? Report on Song Jin-woo's revenge ending. Permanent damage to the knee and pubic ligaments, complete testicular removal, total loss of male function. Perpetrator sees revenge completed. "I'm going to be killed." The class president curled up in her bedroom, clutching her head in despair. Song Yoon Jin's parents are gone, "I'll be next." Yoon Karma said in the gym that I'd have to pay for Lee Hyena's suicide. "She'll use terrifying means to get me. I can't just sit here and wait. The only person who can save me now is myself." I have a confession video from Song Yoon Jin, stolen from the delinquent next door, and in it there's evidence of Lee Myung-jun punishing a minor without legal authority. I'll send this to HBS, then ask Beto's grandmother for personal protection. Determined, she hit send, but the next second, a notepad window popped up. "Your computer has already been wiped by a hacker." The class president instantly felt as if she'd fallen into an icy abyss, trembling uncontrollably. How could this happen? Did Lee Myung-jun hire hackers? Or was it Yoon Karma? Was she some kind of North Korean cyber warrior? The hacker, seeing her slow to respond, sounded disappointed. "Don't you even recognize the benefactor who deleted your bullying posts a year ago?" The class president was startled. That familiar, annoyingly smug tone, Beto's hacker cousin. The hacker was delighted that the class president finally recognized him. The class president lost control and shouted, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you messing with my computer?" The other person, instead, lashed out at the class president, "I just saved your life. You think grandma doesn't know anything? She's been covering things up all along, making sure the truth never gets out. Do you know the web drama starring our Betoa? It's insanely popular right now, she's drowning in offers from film and fashion. This is the crucial moment when her value is skyrocketing, and you still dare to stir up trouble for me?" The class president was fuming, practically smoking with anger. What do you mean by that? I never even mentioned Beidou in my email, and the video only shows Song Yoon-jin and Song Jin-woo. The other person kept cursing. Idiot. None of you in that little bullying clique can wash your hands of this. If someone really digs into this, everyone will go down together. Beidou will definitely get dragged in, too. You know exactly how this works, so stop pretending to be innocent. The class president was shaking with rage. If you think this has nothing to do with you, then just draw the line and stay out of it. The other person snapped coldly. If you had to send an email, you should have sent it to grandma privately. Instead, you sent it straight to the TV station's official inbox. If this blows up, who do you think will have to clean up the mess? Moon-jin, get your act together. Or are you trying to end up like Hyena? That was the last straw for the class president, who exploded. So what exactly do you all want me to do? No matter what I do, it's a dead end. You think you know what our high school is like? You don't know a thing. Do you have any idea how vicious that lunatic Yoon Karma is? I'm not even worth a blade of grass to her. Do you know what she did to me with crab claws? She forced me to eat dried seaweed meant for 200 people. The other person looked baffled. Is she a seafood chef or something? The next second, the class president dropped to their knees with a thud. Please, stop acting like this has nothing to do with you. If this keeps up, Beidou is going to get ruined, too. If I let her keep going crazy, I'll be dead sooner or later. But the other person remained cold. We have our own ways. Deal with your problems yourself. And just so you don't try anything stupid, your computer and phone have been wiped clean, and the cloud videos are gone, too. At that moment, the chief also received a message. Mr. Lee, our hired Chinese hacker just reported that Moon-jin tried to send the video to HBS, but everything's already been wiped. Mr. Lee nodded. That was money well spent. From here on out, revenge on Beidou depends on the hacker team. They're crucial. The chief agreed. It's not just Moon-jin. Every student who filmed Song Yoon-jin and her brother's execution video has their phone under our surveillance. The gym's Wi-Fi had already been hacked, and the moment anyone tries to send the video, it gets deleted instantly. It'll never make it online. Just then, Mom knocked on the door, asking why the class president wasn't heading to school. The class president clutched their head and shouted, I'm not going to school to get killed. I'm not stepping outside today, not even once. Mom looked troubled, and at that moment Dad came over with the keys, and shoved the door open. Moon-jin, just how far do you want to push my disappointment in you? How dare you use such vulgar language in my house, and even skip school like this? Upon seeing the situation, the class president immediately knelt down and begged her father without hesitation. I don't want to die. If I go to school, I'll be as good as dead. Lee Myung-jun killed Song Yoon-jin's parents, and even ordered his adopted daughter to smash Yoon-jin's brother's balls. Karma forced dried seaweed down my throat with a rubber tube, trying to stuff me to death. Dad, please save me, I really don't want to die yet. After hearing this, her father's veins bulged with anger. Having such a troublesome daughter is truly my sin. How long do I have to clean up your messes? Just because of you, the whole family's been dragged into danger. Then he instructed his wife, try to stay in crowded places today, right now, outside is safer than at home. I'll try to talk to Mr. Lee. Take the bus to your cram school, I'll let the teacher know. As for whether we need to take you off the household registry, we'll wait and see. When the class president arrived at cram school, the teacher told her she could quietly study by herself, since she had to go teach the repeaters class. The class president pushed open the self-study room door, only to see Yoon Karma's terrifying face. Startled, the class president was about to call for the teacher, but Karma quickly clamped a hand over her mouth, and dragged her into the study room, locking the door with a loud clang. Karma used her legs to pin the class president's arms, listening warily for any sounds outside. Once she was sure no one was there, she lowered her voice and said, "Quiet. If you dare to scream again, your mom, who's picking fruit in the basement of the department store, will be in danger." How does she know where my mom is? Could our family be under real-time surveillance? Finally, Karma confirmed, "If I let go, will you behave yourself?" Crying, the class president nodded desperately. Only then did Karma release her. The class president gasped for air, darted to the side, and coughed uncontrollably. "You still haven't paid off your debt, class president, how could you possibly run away?" The class president wondered how Karma knew she would come to this classroom. Karma kindly explained, "The Moon-jin surveillance team reported that this was the only empty classroom at this hour, so I climbed in through the window." The class president was stunned. This was the 4th floor. What was Yoon Karma, Spider-Man? And what surveillance team? They were criminals out in the open, not even trying to hide it. The next moment, the class president raised a desk as a shield. "I know you're here to kill me. If you touch me, I'll scream and bring all the cram school students here." But Karma just smiled and said, "I'm not here to kill you, I'm here to negotiate." From your chats with Yoon Jin, it seems you know the cause of Hyena's death. If you can give me some extra clues, I can let you live. I don't have to die? Wait, that can't be right. Just now in the gym, she looked like she was going to kill me. Why is she suddenly proposing a deal? The class president had a flash of inspiration and couldn't help laughing. Karma looked puzzled. What are you laughing at? Looks like your stepfather got scared and killed Song Yoon Jin's parents. What a monumentally stupid move. You want to win me over now, when you originally planned to get rid of me, all because Chae Sho-hyun has grown suspicious. Rather than cooperate with you and be eliminated as a traitor by Chae Sho-hyun, I'd rather bet on Chae Sho-hyun to win. Karma reminded the class monitor that her mother was still under their surveillance. So what? Are you really going to make a move in public, right under the cameras? You're getting desperate now, that just proves you're panicking. She burst out laughing. If you really did take me out, wouldn't that make you even more suspicious? You wouldn't dare touch me. The next second, Karma lunged and clamped her hands tightly around the class monitor's neck. The wind blew aside Karma's bangs, revealing eyes burning with demonic fury. The class monitor's face turned blue, her eyes rolled back, and she lost consciousness completely. The class monitor jolted awake. Karma was already waiting, smiling as she greeted her. You're finally awake, monitor. How does it feel to be choked out in 3 seconds? My nickname in juvie was the sleeping sprite. My specialty was knocking people out before the guards even noticed. There was this girl who loved to go against me, so I made her sleep 30 times in one day. Guess what happened to her in the end? She turned into a drooling idiot. I really wonder, monitor, how many times would you have to pass out to end up like that? The class monitor was truly terrified now, and hurriedly agreed to do whatever Karma wanted. Karma tugged at her school uniform and complained it was too hot, telling the class monitor to take her for shaved ice to cool down. The class monitor was totally bewildered by the sudden change. There's only one shaved ice shop near the tutoring center. Karma's eyes lit up. Then hurry up and take me. When the two arrived, they found the shop wasn't open yet. Karma was instantly annoyed and demanded to know what was going on. The class monitor, sweating bullets, said it was her first time coming this early, too. She suggested they go to the cafe next door. But Karma pressed her face to the glass, then simply pushed the door open and went inside. The class monitor had no choice but to follow. The owner looked displeased and told them it wasn't opening time yet. Karma pouted, I'm really hot right now, I want shaved ice so badly. Could you make an exception just this once? The owner's face broke into a grin and he let them sit in the corner, so no one would think the shop was open. Wow, thank you so much. My friend will pay double. The class monitor was about to cough up blood. What did I do in my past life to end up flattering an old man with Karma at the crack of dawn? The owner brought a chocolate shaved ice to Karma, then turned to the class monitor and asked if she wanted mango shaved ice. The class monitor paused a moment, then nodded. But soon she sensed something was off. They'd placed their orders on a self-service machine. How did the owner know who ordered which one? Just then, Karma urged her to eat, or the ice would melt. The class monitor reacted instantly, swapping their desserts in a flash. Karma shouted in fury, what the hell are you doing? But the class monitor stared coldly at Karma. Eat a bite of my mango shaved ice first. Did you put something special in there? The owner's face changed instantly, jaw clenched, cold sweat pouring down. Karma suggested she go to her family's hospital for a thorough brain check. The class president shouted, shut up. I'll make you eat. From the very start, the class president felt that something was off, so she deliberately chose a time when there were no customers in the shop, and even forced her way into the shaved ice store before it opened. She suspected that Yoon Karma's group had already bribed the shop owner and planned to tamper with the food. She thought, if Yoon Karma doesn't eat a single bite of the shaved ice I made, then I'll have to run for my life. But Karma took a big bite of the ice cream, chewed a few times, and swallowed it down. She opened her mouth to show the class president that the shaved ice was fine, and even reached out her hand, signaling for the chocolate shaved ice to be returned. But the class president suddenly snatched it and took a bite, ignoring Karma's protests, and began devouring it, fully focused on enjoying what was meant for Karma. As she ate, she planned to first pretend to cooperate with Karma, leak some false information, and then find a way to contact Chae Sho-hyun to tattle. Even though Chae Sho-hyun might not pay her any attention, it was still better than sitting around waiting to die. Just then, a crunching sound came from the class president's mouth. The next second, a spray of blood burst out. She covered her mouth and hurriedly spat out the shaved ice, only to find it was full of glass shards. In disbelief, the class president stood up, but the bodyguard silently closed in from behind, and forced her back into the chair. The more she thought about it, the more unfair it felt. How can I use seaweed to make up for Hyena's vomit debt? That doesn't make sense. All the food I gave you was normal, but what you fed Hyena was cigarette butts and toilet paper. Those are carcinogens. So, we specially prepared a foreign object dish for you, glass shaved ice. How does it feel? Doesn't it taste good, class president? At this moment, the bodyguard added, Miss Moonijin, this feast was specially prepared for you by Mr. Lee. We hope you'll appreciate it. Don't be shy, make sure to finish every last bite. The class president's mind raced as she began plotting her escape. These lunatics really want to kill me with glass shaved ice, I have to get out of here. She noticed that there were only 2 bodyguards behind her, and the gap between them was just wide enough for the chair to squeeze through. If she pushed off the ground hard enough, she might be able to use the recoil to break out of the encirclement. She suddenly leapt to her feet, ready to make a run for it, but stopped in the next second. Why is no one chasing me? Everyone was calmly watching, as if they were at a show. Karma even kindly reminded her, if you're going to run, remember to take your backpack. How careless can you get? The class president only felt her fear deepen. Why isn't anyone stopping me? Does Yoon Karma have an even bigger trap planned? What does she want? Should I run? Just then, Karma spoke nonchalantly, I have a very interesting video here, and you're the star. Wanna guess where this video might be used? I'm afraid even if I let you go, you wouldn't want to leave the shop. Come on, sit down. Your kindest friend, Karma, won't force you to eat the shaved ice. It's better if you finish watching this video before you leave. The class president shrank her neck and, after some hesitation, sat back down. The video was exactly the footage of her beating Yoon Jin that day. The sound of her own voice confessing to being a murderer came clearly from the camera. Then came the images of her fists landing one after another on Yoon's body. The scene was unspeakably brutal. Well, what do you think, class president? Footage of a cruel beating and a murderer's confession. If I sent this kind of material to certain special people, wouldn't that be fun? Are you going to send it to my dad? Wow, you're that scared of being kicked out by your dad? But I said, certain people. That computer yesterday, Beto's hacker cousin didn't hack it, did he? Actually, it was a Chinese hacker I hired. Since you experienced it yourself, you should know how scary hackers are. I'll send this wonderful video to the hacker, and make sure it pops up at every important moment in your life. Whether you're making new friends at college, starting your first job after graduation, or even on your wedding day, this video will suddenly appear, stirring up a little chaos in your peaceful life. By the way, here's some good news. The payment for this job is already held in escrow on the dark web, they'll pay the hacker in installments. So even if your stepdad disappears in the next second, the hackers will keep their eyes on you for the rest of their lives, just for the money. A model class president like you deserves to be isolated for a lifetime, to grow old alone, if you can bear it, that is, and don't end things yourself. Upon hearing this, the class president almost fell to her knees on the spot. Karma, please don't do this. Please, tell your stepdad, I'll do anything you want. Anything? Then be good, and finish your shaved ice. As long as you eat all the glass-filled shaved ice on the table, I'll delete the video right in front of you, completely, never to be shared. Of course, that's just a suggestion. If you want to leave, we won't stop you. But if you regret it the moment you step out the door, it'll be too late. The class president knelt on the chair, trying to brainwash herself. Didn't that artist uncle on TV eat glass for years without a problem? What's a bowl of glass shards? I'm Moonijin, who have I ever been afraid of? Karma simply rested her chin in her hand, watching her change expressions with a leisurely air. Spoonful by spoonful, the class president stuffed glass shards into her mouth. The glass clinked against her teeth. She chewed, trembling, as blood slowly seeped from the corner of her mouth. In a daze, the class president saw her life flash before her eyes. Lee Hyena was being held down, the class president forcing her mouth open, shoving cigarette butts in one after another. Empty rolls of toilet paper were scattered on the floor. She balled up sheets of toilet paper, stuffing them little by little into Hyena's mouth. Lee Hyena knelt on the ground, begging desperately, tears streaming down her face as she handed over a hospital report that said she had stomach cancer. Some of the cancer cells had already metastasized, the diagnosis was out. The sunlight outside the window is so dazzling. Too bad, I might never see it again. The next moment, the class president finally couldn't hold on. She toppled off the chair and collapsed to the floor. Her face flushed deep red, tears streamed uncontrollably, and she coughed up blood. Her stomach burned, as if it were on fire. The class president begged everyone to call an ambulance. At that moment, new footsteps echoed through the room. Mr. Lee walked in, holding a chrysanthemum, with the chief and others following behind. They looked down at her coldly. The class president pleaded in panic, "Uncle, I was wrong, please spare my life." Mr. Lee placed the chrysanthemum on her chest. "Ijin, apologize to Hyena yourself." Karma crouched down beside her. "Ijin, paying back your debts must be exhausting. You can rest in peace now." In a daze, she saw the crouching figure transform into Hyena. Hyena looked at her with a radiant smile. Moon Yejin's revenge report: ingested a large quantity of glass shards, resulting in septic shock. Confirmed dead at 11:47 a.m. The perpetrator's revenge is complete. Not long after, the news of a 16-year-old girl's bizarre death after eating a bowl of shaved ice played on television. Because the shaved ice shop owner had guaranteed someone's death, he was saddled with a 1.7 billion won liability. He randomly targeted someone for revenge against society, hiding glass shards in a bowl of shaved ice. The prosecutor's office filed charges for aggravated assault. The TV news reported, the female student who was with the deceased is receiving psychological treatment due to the shock. Karma took a long sip of her chocolate milkshake. Sure enough, chocolate milkshakes are the best therapy for the mind. She was afraid the shaved ice shop owner would turn her in. She'd had enough of life in the juvenile detention center. Her stepfather reassured her there was no need to worry. The prosecutor's office had categorized it as aggravated homicide, with a maximum sentence of 8 years. He made a deal to clear the owner's 1.7 billion debt and promised a post-tax reward of 8 billion, ensuring the owner wouldn't betray her. Wow, that's a real South Korean capitalist move. At this moment, the chief grew curious. Karma, how did you know the class president would pick your chocolate shaved ice? I can't read minds. How could I have known? I put glass shards in both bowls. No matter which she picked, it would be the same. What a shame. If she'd known she had to eat the mango shaved ice after finishing the chocolate one, her expression would have been priceless. Too bad that vicious girl didn't make it through. Such a letdown. The chief felt a chill inside. It's only at times like this that you can really sense how twisted this girl is. Suddenly, Karma started crying, tears streaming uncontrollably down her face. The chief was stunned. Why is she suddenly crying? I already missed that vicious girl. Only she could truly spar with me. But the look on her face as she breathed her last was captivating. I really miss her. Cold sweat broke out on the chief's back as he secretly cursed Karma for being insane. Mr. Lee asked, it's been 4 days since Moon Yejin died. How are things being handled with her parents? At that moment, Moon's mother was wailing. It must have been Lee Myung-jun who killed my daughter. The chief of the Moon household tried to comfort her, telling her not to make accusations without evidence. Hearing this, the wife immediately turned on her husband. You hypocrite. It's all your fault for sending her to that cram school. No, it's because you put so much pressure on her from the very beginning that she became a bully. You're the one who killed our Yejin. I'm going back to my mother's. Just wait, I'm going to divorce you. I'm going to take revenge on Lee Myung-jun and you. The man sitting in silence clenched his fists. It's my fault our daughter died? You spent all day entertaining clients, you even forgot about her elementary school graduation. How dare you talk such nonsense? No one cared about Yejin more than I did. She inherited my brains and my short temper. I had her learn Taekwondo to let her channel her aggression, but who knew she'd use it to bully her classmates? Only love with discipline can raise a good child. I just wanted to be strict, to make something of her. There's only one way to keep her from going down a criminal path, and that's to become a hospital chief like me. Moon Yejin, why do you always stray from the path I planned for you? Outside the hospital, crowds had gathered in protest, shouting for the chief to step down. Because yesterday, a mysterious informant exposed that Chief Moon had bribed Assemblyman Young, illegally converting 4 plots of land for hospital use. This act had provoked public outrage. Citizens organized demonstrations on their own. Chief Moon held his daughter's portrait, looking down at the crowd below. Half a lifetime of hard work, and in the end, it all came to nothing. Just then, the office door swung open. A woman with her hair in a bun walked in, a strange smile on her face. Chief Moon, you must know why I'm here, don't you? You're here to buy my silence, aren't you? So no one finds out that the real mastermind behind the land bribes is Assemblyman Cha. It looks like, in the end, between Young and me, they chose me. But I'm curious, what's he going to threaten me with now? My dead daughter? Or my wife, who's asked for a divorce? There's no one left who can be used against me. If I refuse, what does he plan to do? Dump my ex-wife in the sea? Dig up my daughter's grave? The bun-haired woman kept smiling that strange smile. Maybe there's a way to end your pain forever. He lowered his head, looking at the photo with his daughter. Tell Assemblyman Cha I'll handle this myself, he doesn't need to do a thing. But I am curious, are you really Cha's person? I've never seen you with him. Or maybe, are you actually working for Chae Sho-hyun? There was finally a flicker of change in the bun-haired woman's smile. The dying should be less inquisitive. Chief Moon had already found his answer. I'll make things easier for you, but my wife knows nothing, you can't touch her. At the hospital entrance, reporters clamored, waiting to interview Chief Moon. They looked up, and saw someone standing on the hospital rooftop. Looking closely, it was Chief Moon. He gazed at the sky, perhaps mourning his lost daughter. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and leapt from the roof. Every reporter witnessed his death. The girl who'd always been bullied turned out to be the third generation of a chaebol family. The members of the bullying clique were terrified and utterly at a loss. Even though Hyena said she wouldn't pursue the matter, that she'd live on her own, that her father would never find out she'd been bullied, and she wouldn't take revenge on them. But these rotten kids, always judging others by their own petty minds, didn't believe a word she said. Just when everyone was at their wits' end, Chae Sho-hyun finally appeared. The moment she pushed open the door, she began with biting sarcasm. "What are you idiots so scared of, hiding at home like this? Hey, you cowards, if the new plaything really is a third-generation chaebol, isn't that even more exciting?" The class president demanded to know where she'd been, and why she was only showing up now. "Didn't I say I had to go home to fetch something? You're questioning me over something so trivial?" The class president was so frightened cold sweat broke out all over him. He immediately shut up, not daring to say another word. "So what if you're a third-generation chaebol?" She planted a foot on Hyena's chest, lifting Hyena's chin with the tip of her shoe. "My dad's a top candidate for the next president. And besides, if you can't even pick the right side and end up with your stocks crashing 30%, can you really call yourself a chaebol?" The class president whispered from the back, "Even a skinny camel is bigger than a horse, you'd better not get too cocky." Chae Sho-hyun sneered, accusing her of pretending to be clever. "It was my dad's people who put Hyena's uncle in prison. Just a few days ago, her grandfather made a fool of himself right in front of my dad. If you're with me, why would you be afraid of some chaebol kid?" Hyena lashed out at her. "Your dad's so powerful, and yet you use his influence to bully people, never showing any self-restraint. Don't you find it shameful?" Chae Sho-hyun put on a look of sudden realization. "Oh, so we have a model daughter at our school now. But you've made one mistake, my dad isn't my backing, he's my errand boy. Seems like you still can't grasp this kind of plot twist." With that, she fished a USB stick out of her pocket. "Know what this is? This is my dad's lifeline. Last year, I got to know Beto as hacker cousin and bought some stealth software, installed it on my dad's computer, and within 6 months cracked his cryptocurrency account, found 23 billion won in political slush funds. But the money's not the point. The point is, I've got dirt on my dad. As soon as this stuff gets out, my dad's finished. So? Ruthless enough for you?" Hyena couldn't figure out what this girl was really trying to say. "What I mean is, all it takes is a word from me, and my dad would kill for me. If he doesn't obey, he'll die at my hands instead." Hyena stood her ground. "You think your crazy talk is going to scare me?" Chae Sho-hyun paused for a moment, then flung a photo down onto the floor. Hyena stared at the photo, finally seeing what was in it, and immediately threw up. "You've got a weak stomach? Just a photo of a corpse with its brains splattered and you can't handle it? When your mom died in that car crash, her head was smashed to a pulp. Did you throw up like this back then, too?" Hyena, trembling, asked what the photo was about. He was the chairman of a retail group worth 54 trillion, died in a mountaineering accident. At this, Chae Sho-hyun's face twisted into a look of perverse excitement. "The mountains, best place in Korea to stage an accident. Just get your people into the patrol team, find a spot the cameras can't see under the pretense of a patrol. When he was alone at that blind spot, just a little nudge, down he goes, and that's that. To be honest, I didn't kill him out of some deep-seated grudge. I just wanted to see how far my dad would go for me." After giving him the order, she realized that killing a big corporate tycoon was actually this easy. "Sigh, Lee Hyena. You transferred here because your father sent you to dig up dirt on my dad, hoping to disgrace him, right?" Hyena hurried to deny it, claiming she only came to follow an outstanding art exam teacher. But Chae Sho-hyun didn't believe her at all. "So, should I kill your father too?" Hearing this, Hyena trembled all over, her face full of disbelief. Chae Sho-hyun stood up and continued outlining her plan. "Your dad needs to drink tea from Company A every morning at 7. How about I put a little white powder in it?" She grabbed Hyena by the collar, hoisting her into the air. "Or, I could just loosen the equipment in your dad's gym, let him get crushed during his favorite workout. Or better yet, spend 4 bitcoins on the dark web to hire a hitman, and have your dad chopped into pieces." As she spoke, she traced the USB drive back and forth across Hyena's body. The next second, she seized Hyena's tie. With one swift kick, she knocked her down, still gripping the tie tightly. Hyena was strangled, unable to breathe, with a devilish whisper ringing in her ear. "I've decided." The next head of the group, Lee Myung-jun, unable to withstand the pressure of the national audit, commits suicide together with his 15-year-old daughter. How about it? Isn't this a good plot? Fits your dad's current situation perfectly, right? Hyena, let's go with this script. On the verge of suffocation, Hyena mustered all her strength to squeeze out the words "don't do it." "Why not? Don't you want to see your dead mother as soon as possible?" Chae Sho-hyun and Kang Ah-hyun burst out in wild laughter. Those nearby either watched coldly or looked on with complicated expressions. Hyena broke down, sobbing and begging for mercy. It's all my fault. I won't ever talk back to you again. Please don't kill me. Chae Shohyun finally heard the answer she wanted. Let go of the tie, letting Hyena crash heavily to the floor as she watched her cough coldly. Hyena, from today on, you're my plaything. If you dare defy me, your dad's dead. This was the starting point of all the bullying in Hyena's diary. Mr. Lee regretted it countless times. He shouldn't have focused solely on handling the national audit, neglecting the investigation into Hyena's school, which ultimately left his daughter at the mercy of a pack of demons, tortured until she died. To protect a useless father like me, you suffered so much, my daughter. But this time, it's those demon girls' turn. Dad will make sure they go to hell. The revenge at Unro High finally came to an end. Karma was transferring to another school, leaving as well. The two little followers cried in excitement, swearing they'd keep a low profile from now on. The girl with glasses stared at Karma's departing figure, feelings churning inside her. She's leaving just like that? I haven't even had the chance to thank her. How can I just let her go? With that thought, she gritted her teeth and rushed downstairs. Suddenly, Karma heard someone calling her name. She turned around and saw the girl with glasses, panting as she ran over. Karma, I have something I want to say to you. Thank you, truly. If it weren't for you, I'd still be trapped in hell right now. Song Yoon Jin and her gang made me question the meaning of life over and over again. If you hadn't shown up, I might not even be in this world anymore. Maybe to you, I'm just a stranger, someone insignificant passing by, but to me, you're my savior. Really, thank you so much. The girl's tearful gratitude pulled Karma into a heavy wave of memories. Back then, she was still in North Korea, fighting desperately for survival, again and again. She remembered looking at her father. Dad, will you talk to me? I cooperated with the experiments for you today, didn't fuss about going outside. Wasn't I good? No matter how much it hurt, I didn't cry or make a scene. Dad, did Karma do okay? Am I still the child you love? I've worked so hard to endure all this, can you praise me just once? Thinking of this, Karma's eyes softened with emotion. She suddenly hugged the girl with glasses. There's no need for thanks between us. Didn't you say you'd treat me to tteokbokki? If you want to thank me, why not skip class today and hang out with me? I'll use my stepdad's card and treat you to a feast. Skipping class with a friend has always been my little wish. The girls agreed in perfect harmony, chattering excitedly as they planned their outing. This scene was also witnessed by the chief, who lay on the rooftop. The national agency had labeled Yoon Karma as having psychopathic tendencies, a conclusion drawn solely from her life and death-related crimes. But according to long-term evaluations commissioned by Mr. Lee and conducted by a university professor, Yoon Karma did exhibit many antisocial traits, but she also displayed 3 clear behaviors that set her apart from true psychopaths. The chief's gaze grew resolute. Karma, you are the pillar of Mr. Lee's revenge, you must let him see hope for living on. Elsewhere, after dropping out, Song Yoon Jin could only find work at a convenience store. The moment the store door swung open, in walked the first-year queen and her crew. Wow, if it isn't Chihuahua Yoon Jin. Didn't think we'd run into the legendary figure of Unro High right here. The girl with curly hair raised her phone. Yoon Jin, bark for me like a dog, twice. Yoon Jin could only lower the brim of her cap, hiding her face so they couldn't film her humiliation. Park Min-woo told Yoon Jin she'd be in charge of their cigarettes and booze from now on. We'll let it go today, but next time, make sure you have everything ready. If not, your nudes will be all over the place. With that, he kicked over the grill, sending merchandise scattering everywhere. Oh my, the customer slipped by accident. Sorry for the trouble, Chihuahua. Only after they left did Yoon Jin dare to cover her head and break down in tears. The delinquent trio strutted out, reveling in the thrill of racing their bikes. A second later, they were about to crash into a delivery truck. Meanwhile, the underlings who'd sworn to stay low-key were targeted and bullied by another group of delinquent girls. The blonde girl glared back defiantly, as if she'd finally made up her mind, grabbed a brick, and charged forward. Meanwhile, Chae Shohyun had also returned from abroad, and her social media followers had surpassed 3 million. The trio of revenge seekers began to meet, discussing plans for their next target. Kang A-hyun, heiress to the Kang family, the overlords of Pusan. Her uncle was the leader of the Shaft Gang, the largest local crime syndicate. Shaft Gang had started as a small-time debt collection outfit, but after the anti-gang crackdown, while other syndicates crumbled, Shaft Gang seized the opportunity, filling the vacuum and rising swiftly. Not long after, the financial crisis hit, and the Kang family dove into loan sharking, swallowing up companies on the verge of bankruptcy, eventually growing into today's giant, Dasu Ocean Corporation. With the Kang family at the helm, Dasu Corporation helped South Korea weather the crisis and triggered a shipbuilding boom. After more than 2 decades of operation, the Kang family's assets soared to 2.127 trillion won, making up 60% of Dasu District's GDP. Add to that their real estate and illicit capital, and the Kang family is almost at chaebol status. The core industries of the entire Dasu District are all firmly in Kang family hands. Most residents' livelihoods are tightly held by them, and the local authorities have become their shield. Dasu District connects to the outside world by a single bridge. If the Kang family used their influence to seal off the bridge, no one could escape by land. Nearly all the ports are monopolized by the Kangs as well. In other words, for those living in Dasu District, crossing the Kang family is like being trapped on a prison island. Kang's father and Kang's uncle are the undisputed kings of Dasu, and Kang Hyun herself is the lawless little princess of this kingdom. She finds delight in violence and cannot stand being looked down upon. Influenced by her uncle, a former Asian boxing champion, she joined the boxing club. But in her second year of middle school, during a national tournament, she was mocked for her height by another champion, which led to a scuffle outside the ring, and she was disqualified and expelled from the boxing association. At her father's suggestion, she left for Seoul for a change of scene. Naturally, she joined Chae Shohyun's clique at the middle school where Miss Hyena attended. Now, she had returned to Busan for high school. For Karma, this trip to Busan felt like stepping into the dragon's lair. In other words, Karma could be fed to the fish in the sea at any moment. It may sound exaggerated, but that's about the gist of it. Mr. Lee asked quietly how they planned to handle the situation. The chief has decided to assign bodyguards to Karma and leverage the political climate in Busan. The mayor of Busan died unexpectedly last August, and the mayoral election is set for next April. The Kang family wants to install a police commissioner, who is close to them, as the new mayor. Outside Dasu District, this commissioner is known for supporting youth entrepreneurship investments, promising to activate Busan's youth startup hub, help Commissioner Kim run for mayor, and give Shebang Group a clean slate. We can move while they are keeping a low profile. Chief Beck, you and Karma will go to Busan to carry out the mission together. Karma's security team is under your command. Rather than simply protecting, my top priority is to safeguard Karma during her mission of revenge. Looking at Karma's bright, expectant eyes, the chief's head began to throb once again. He took a deep breath, preparing to report the most crucial matter, Kang Hyun's atrocities against the young lady. But Mr. Lee coldly interrupted, "Enough. That's all for today." With that, he ignored the two pairs of eyes on him and strode out. The chief was taken aback, watching Mr. Lee's retreating figure with a heart full of pain. Karma, however, was curious and asked the chief to tell her the details. The chief sighed helplessly. "Karma, try to read the room a bit, will you?" At that moment, Mr. Lee, now asleep, once again fell into a nightmare. He nagged incessantly at Hyena, "Don't play with your phone while lying down, and don't turn your headphones up so loud. That's why you get tinnitus and neck problems. You're so young to have these issues already, how can I ever feel at ease letting you live on your own?" Hyena stared out the window, torn inside. Maybe I should just tell Dad the truth. Tell him that I'm being bullied by those people, that I'm exhausted, that I can barely hold on anymore. Dad, actually, Just as she was about to confess, Hyena saw Mr. Lee picking up his phone, and watched as her father's previously calm face grew more and more contorted. "Are you even making sense right now? How do you expect the legal department to explain this? Everyone is already overwhelmed dealing with the national audit. The reporters will blow up any tiny loophole they find. There are traitors everywhere in the company, and plenty of people outside waiting for us to slip up. They'd love nothing more than to see us in jail. Do you realize I haven't slept for 72 hours cleaning up this mess? I've staked my whole life on this company, and you make such a rookie mistake." Hyena watched as her father panted furiously after his outburst, then took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "I'm sorry, I lost my temper. Please don't mind it. I'll handle the legal department, but I'll still have to trouble you with the aftermath." Mr. Lee hung up the phone, and suddenly blood started streaming from his nose. The chief handed him a tissue, face full of concern. "You haven't slept for 84 hours now, not 72. Please get some rest. If you keep pushing yourself, you'll collapse." But Mr. Lee suddenly gripped Hyena's hand tightly. "I'm sorry, I scared you just now. Don't worry, Hyena, Dad will get through this. I'll never abandon you and go to prison alone." Hyena understood, her father was at his limit. "I can't let Dad worry about me anymore. I have to grit my teeth and endure." The scene changed. Hyena leapt from the rooftop. Mr. Lee jolted awake from his nightmare, rushed into the bathroom to calm himself down, but ended up staring furiously at his own reflection. "If only I'd been a little more attentive, maybe I would have noticed something." He stared at himself, his face growing more and more twisted. The next moment, he smashed the mirror with a heavy punch, blood splattering from his fingers. "All because of those damn things, yet I still played the victim in front of my daughter. It's all your fault. You're the reason Hyena has no one to confide in. Your only daughter is right here, already on the verge of breaking down. How can a useless father like you still have the face to live? That punch was meant to land, but a pair of small hands stopped it. Don't do this, Dad, your hand is injured. Karma, I'm counting on you to handle things at school. Don't worry, leave it to me. A week later, Karma transferred to Kang Hyun's high school. The teacher introduced her. Karma has just transferred from Seoul. I hope everyone gets along and no one tries to exclude her. There was a murmur in the classroom. Are all kids from Seoul this pretty? The big guy in class stared in awe. Kang Hyun immediately bristled. Can you quit staring like that? You're ogling someone else right in front of your girlfriend. Have you already decided what to name your future kids together? The big guy hurriedly explained. I'm just curious about the new transfer student, that's all. Kang Hyun scoffed and turned away with a huff, deep down feeling extremely annoyed at Karma. The teacher told Karma to take the empty seat in the back row, then left for a meeting. Karma smiled sweetly and agreed, walking obediently to the back, but Kang Hyun called out to her, Hey, Seoul country bumpkin, don't think you're all that just because you're from Seoul. This school listens to me and my brother who just came back. If you want to survive here, you'd better behave. Got it? Karma lowered her head and timidly replied that she understood. Only then did Kang Hyun give a satisfied nod. Now that she'd dealt with Karma, the potential rival, she set her sights on Park Yoon-woo. Park Yoon-woo was an orphan raised by her grandmother. Her grandmother had worked hard to bring her up, only to be struck by dementia. Kang Hyun forced Park Yoon-woo to borrow money in her grandmother's name, threatening to beat her to death if she refused. She even put an anti-escape bracelet on her. This bracelet was a criminal record bracelet, jointly developed by Counselor Cha and Kang Capital. It could monitor the wearer's heart rate and ECG in real time, to prevent ex-offenders from committing suicide. If the wearer tried to remove it, the bracelet would tighten automatically. It also had a built-in microphone to eavesdrop on conversations, to prevent further crimes. But there was much debate in society over whether the bracelet had side effects, so the higher-ups decided to run a pilot program in Dosu District first. Park Yoon-woo became one of the first test subjects. Kang Hyun barged into her home and threatened, If you dare leave the restricted area, get ready to pick up your senile grandmother's corpse. Park Yoon-woo pleaded desperately, Please, just let me drop out of school. That way I can work more jobs and pay you back sooner. Kang Hyun sneered, What the hell are you saying? If you leave, who's going to serve me at school? Then, her tone changed abruptly, But don't be too upset. Didn't I give you a housewarming gift? And that gift turned out to be a pair of handcuffs. At that moment, the handcuffs were locking her grandmother to the window. Park Yoon-woo begged her in tears not to do this, saying, Grandma hasn't done anything wrong. Kang Hyun impatiently dug at her ear and tossed out, Once you pay off the debt, you'll get your key back. From now on, you'd better run errands for us. With that, she swaggered off with her lackeys. Park Yoon-woo knelt before his grandmother, sobbing, Grandma, I'm so sorry. When Kang Hyun forced me to borrow money in your name, I never should have signed, not even if it meant getting beaten to death. You raised me, an orphan, all on your own, and now I've dragged you into this. At that thought, Park Yoon-woo jolted upright. He remembered how Kang Hyun had said she was too tired from gaming all night and told him to come over and press the keyboard for her. If you don't press hard enough, I'll shave your grandma's head bald. During math class, Kang Hyun played games while loudly bantering with her boyfriend, making it impossible for the teacher and students to carry on the lesson. The teacher finally lost patience, warning them to quiet down before trying to continue teaching. But the two just got rowdier, their laughter shaking the classroom. At last, the teacher snapped. This is class time, not game time. If you want to do something else, do it quietly. And what kind of posture is that for a student? Put your legs down. Kang Hyun shot back, Teacher, are you staring at my legs right now? The big guy beside her chimed in, Are you checking out her pretty legs? Oh, that won't do, we should report this to the education office. Our teacher's pension was cut off, now we're doomed to pick up trash and die alone as outcasts. Cold sweat broke out on the teacher's forehead. He shut his eyes, gritted his teeth, and actually fell to his knees. I was wrong, please forgive me. Kang Hyun mocked him smugly, Why did you stop scolding us? If you're going to apologize, at least show some sincerity. Bow to me. Each time you bow, say, Sister Hyun, I was wrong. Maybe then, out of the kindness of my heart, I'll forgive you. What, you don't want to? The teacher froze, staring at her in disbelief. But in the end, he bowed his head to the floor in humiliation. If you dare interrupt my gaming again, I'll make sure you skip straight to your lonely old age, understood? The gray-haired teacher lay prostrate on the ground, mumbling his apology. Only then did Kang Hyun let him get up, giving him a casual slap on the butt and telling him to get lost. The students whispered among themselves, The teacher's new here, probably doesn't know any better than to cross Kang Hyun. Kang Hyun was in a great mood, Her boyfriend had even stuck up for her just now. The big guy snorted, "Try messing with my girl, see what happens." This little display of couples affection, though, utterly disgusted Karma. After class, Karma recalled the chief's instructions. "The Kang Hyun execution you're planning will cost a fortune and take a lot of time. That elaborate device you designed will have to cross the sea and arrive at Busan Harbor in a few days. But don't waste this waiting period. Kang Hyun once bullied Lady Hyena, so you need to pay her back double at school. Chief Oppa, didn't you say that if anyone bullies Kang Hyun in Busan, they'd get dumped in the East Sea? Are you trying to get rid of me so you can have dad's love all to yourself?" The chief looked helpless. "That's what Mr. Lee wants. The Shaft gang has been busy cleaning up their image lately. They don't dare mess with outsiders right now. All you have to do is play the victim. There are plenty of ways to get her back in secret. Aren't you a pro at tormenting people? With your brains, you'll handle this just fine. If need be, the undercover guards will protect you." Though she was a little annoyed, to make the bully eat her own medicine, the hedgehog plan had to be executed perfectly. Only then could she truly win Dad's heart. So, how does one play the perfect victim in front of everyone? Karma eyed the big guy not far away, the corner of her mouth curling into a sly smile as an idea came to her. "Oppa, what are you doing here?" Karma's voice turned sweet and soft. The big guy replied that he was waiting for Kang Hyun to finish in the bathroom, and asked why she was talking funny. Looks like the homeroom teacher didn't mention it. Karma introduced herself. "I'm a defector from North Korea, now a South Korean, currently studying in Seoul. There's something I need to confess." She leaned in close to the big guy, her eyes suggestive. "I, Karma, am super interested in you, Oppa. I just love your type, muscular guys like you, those thick arms, that solid chest. Guys like you, Oppa, are exactly my ideal type." The big guy replied honestly, "Thanks for liking me, but I already have a Hyun." Karma lowered her voice. "Why not just dump someone like a Hyun? I know it's not great to badmouth people, but isn't that girl just way too plain? Look at me, Karma, don't you feel something different?" The big guy's face turned red, his eyes fixed on her. "The only woman worthy of a body like yours, Oppa, is definitely me, Karma." Just then, Kang Hyun, fresh from the bathroom, overheard and froze, demanding to know what she was doing. Karma flashed a brilliant smile and answered loudly, "Obviously, I'm flirting with him." Her boyfriend looked at the transfer student, shocked and at a loss, and the air grew tense in an instant. The two girls faced off, the atmosphere turning icy. Slowly, Kang Hyun put on her boxing gloves and began pounding away, one punch after another. Karma's arms were pinned, blood spilling from her mouth as she coughed violently. Kang Hyun's eyes were wide, her whole body trembling with rage. Suddenly, she twisted her waist, driving a punch straight into Karma's stomach. Karma immediately spat blood from her nose and mouth, bruises blooming under her eyes, letting out only a muffled grunt, collapsing to her knees, coughing uncontrollably. "Didn't I tell you? In this school, Oppa and I make the rules. You'd better learn your place. Did you think my words were just for show?" Karma tilted her head back, a defiant grin on her lips. "True love isn't afraid of dying. But for you to lash out at another girl over a guy, a Hyun, isn't it just that you don't believe you can outshine me in charm?" The words struck Kang Hyun right where it hurt. Her brows shot up, her whole body shook with anger, her teeth grinding nearly to pieces. She whirled around and roared, "Oppa, are you dead or something?" The shout was so loud that even the big guy beside her stood stiff with his hair on end. If Oppa hadn't given her a chance, how would a woman like that dare to approach? The big guy hurried to explain that he had already turned her down. Turned her down? Don't kid yourself, you were checking her out, weren't you? Must be tough, dating a girlfriend as flat as a plank, front and back. Karma took the chance to add fuel to the fire. A magic coin, the same on both sides. Kang Hyun was so angry that her lips twisted to one side. Where'd this troublemaker even come from? She's taken so many hits and doesn't even bother to pretend it hurts. That's because, Hyun, your cotton puff punches don't hurt at all. You little brat, haven't you had enough? She roared, raising her fist to strike again. Just then, a furious shout came from behind. "What are you all doing?" The homeroom teacher arrived, brandishing a stick. The henchman hurriedly parted to make way. When the teacher saw it was Kang Hyun, a cold sweat broke out on his forehead as he asked, "What are you doing with the transfer student?" Kang Hyun flashed a wicked smile. "I'm just helping the poor transfer student up after she accidentally fell." The teacher reminded her, "Didn't your uncle tell you to keep out of trouble lately?" Kang Hyun replied, enunciating every word, "She fell down. I'm just helping her up." The teacher stared at the blood stains on her gloves, his heart beating nervously. "Is that what you call helping?" He sighed, feigning ignorance. "You're helping the transfer student, are you? Well, just don't overdo it." Seeing how timid the teacher was, Kang Hyun curled her lip in disdain, Her eyes flashed coldly. So the clueless transfer student can put on quite a show, huh? Just wait. From now on, I'll turn your school life into hell. Better prepare yourself. Karma only smiled lightly, utterly unconcerned. Park Yun-woo stood by, deeply worried. The transfer students caught Kang Ah-hyun's eye. She's doomed. Meanwhile, in the academic office, the math teacher slammed the desk in anger. Homeroom teacher, what's with that girl in the red tracksuit? She said she'd report me to the education department and threatened that I'd end up picking up trash in my old age. The homeroom teacher sighed and rubbed his head, advising, Mr. O, it's best not to get into it with Kang Ah-hyun. You used to work in peaceful Yeonggu, Busan. Now you're in Dosu district. This place isn't safe. This is a kingdom ruled by the Shaft gang. Just since the start of this year, 2 teachers have quietly disappeared, all because they offended Kang Ah-hyun. You're lucky to still be here in one piece. Don't go messing with her for no reason. Mr. O flew into a rage on the spot. This is the Republic of Korea, a modern country in the 21st century. It's not the era of gangsters running wild. There are surveillance cameras everywhere. How could someone just vanish for crossing a gangster's daughter? The homeroom teacher let out a long sigh, glancing at the newspaper on the desk. On the front page was Kang's uncle, campaigning for Chief Kim on camera, throwing his full support behind the mayoral race in Busan. And on a rural path after school, Karma was cornered against a wall by Kang Ah-hyun and her gang. Looks like beating you up isn't enough. Your big sister here is an expert at dealing with troublemakers. The lackeys licked their lips, grinning wickedly at Karma. Hey, you lot, strip her clothes off. Let this brat taste every humiliation there is. Unexpectedly, Karma clutched her stomach, laughing so hard she was nearly hysterical. The lackeys froze in confusion. Wiping tears from her eyes, Karma said, honestly, I thought you were going to do something serious. The next second, her smile vanished and her gaze turned razor sharp. What you're doing right now is no different from self-destruction. She tossed her backpack to the ground. Tell me, Ah-hyun, did you even use your brain to think about why you suddenly snapped at me today? Isn't it just because Oppa prefers my figure to your magic coin body? If I generously show off my curves, do you think Oppa would start thinking about me every day, and get completely sick of your coin figure? This well-reasoned analysis left Kang Ah-hyun dumbstruck on the spot. She whipped around to look at her boyfriend, only to find him staring intently at Karma, cheeks burning red. Kang Ah-hyun's eyes went wide with rage, her iron fists raining down relentlessly. Oppa, you're actually falling for another woman. And you're blushing at that wretched girl. The big guy scratched his head awkwardly, insisting, I'm not blushing. You're seeing things. Karma dabbed her eyes delicately, looking heartbreakingly sympathetic. Poor Oppa, having to put up with such a monster girlfriend. And now you're using blushing as an excuse to pick a fight. I've made up my mind, I'm going to win Oppa's heart. In the next instant, Karma grabbed the big guy's hand and pressed it right against her chest. To make Oppa mine, Karma's willing to do anything. Whatever you want to do, I'm all yours. The big guy blushed so hard it looked like he might bleed. Suddenly, Karma grabbed his shirt. Here, let Big Sis help you take this off. She finished, then turned and shot Kang Ah-hyun a defiant smile. Kang Ah-hyun was so furious she jumped up, slapping Karma's hand away with force. You crazy woman, how dare you touch someone else's man? Someone else's man? He's about to be mine. Karma seized the moment to add fuel to the fire, slowly untying the bow at her collar and tossing it carelessly to the floor. Ah-hyun, if you try to stop me again, I'll just do it myself. The whole crowd was dumbfounded. Is this really how carbon-based life forms think? Kang Ah-hyun's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. She screamed at her lackeys. Hold her down and make her put her clothes back on. If you don't, I'll skin you alive. And so the most dramatic scene unfolded. 6 burly men desperately holding back one crazed girl trying to undress herself. Karma roared, let go of me. Karma has the right to control her own clothes. Kang Ah-hyun, let's settle this with our real bodies. Kang Ah-hyun, who had been shaking with rage, twitched at the corner of her eye when she heard this. All of a sudden, she turned and walked to the other side. You must be pretty confident about your looks, huh? If that pretty face of yours turned ugly, would you still dare to cling to us? Karma's heart skipped a beat. After all, her beauty was one of her trump cards. She instantly summoned her strength, unleashing a beast-like power. She planted her feet firmly apart, every muscle brimming with energy, like a giant forged from steel. With a single horse stance, she actually lifted all 6 burly men blocking her way. Kang Ah-hyun screamed, what are you doing? Hold her down. Or I'll burn all of you too. The big guy suddenly roared, Kang Ah-hyun, don't push it. The boss already said, don't mess with outsiders for now. We're just taking pictures, so she'll keep quiet about her eye injury. But burns won't heal on their own. Do you really want your uncle to tear you apart? Kang Ah-hyun's reason was scorched away by anger. She was about to explode. Karma saw this and was just about to kick away the burning stick when suddenly Kang Hyun's phone rang. She gritted her teeth and struggled for a moment, then threw down the stick in frustration. On the other end of the call was Kang's uncle. The big guy finally breathed a sigh of relief. Turned out the homeroom teacher had tattled to Kang's uncle. Kang's uncle summoned Kang Hyun and the big guy to come over. Kang Hyun clenched her teeth in fury, cursing in her heart, "One day I'll settle the score with that snitch of a teacher. Transfer student, you really lucked out today. If it weren't for my uncle's call, I'd have roasted you into a pig's head by now. Don't think this is the end. Before long, I'll make you wish you'd never been born." With that, the two swaggered off. "Hey, let me go right now." Turning slowly, Kang Hyun immediately started complaining to her uncle, "Oppa's fallen for another woman." Kang's uncle's expression changed at once. "You dare neglect the Kang family's little princess to chase after some other woman?" The big guy nearly burst into tears. Hyun misunderstood. "I'd have to be crazy to do that." "Hyun, why are you making up lies?" Kang Hyun snorted coldly, slammed her palm on the table. "Uncle, just toss that transfer student Yoon Karma into the East Sea and feed her to the fish." Her uncle only stared at her coldly. "Kang Hyun, do you think your uncle's words are just hot air?" Kang Hyun retorted indignantly, "You dumped 5 people at the start of the year. What difference does one transfer student make? Do you really think things are the same as before? Your uncle wants you to keep a low profile until the election. Can't you just listen for once? What's the election got to do with me causing trouble? If you can't break the law for the sake of the election, then why did you have me collect illegal debts? Isn't that contradicting yourself?" Kang's uncle flew into a rage, smashing the table with a single punch. "Collecting debts isn't the same as you stirring up trouble, is it?" Kang Hyun flinched in terror. "For debt collection, I already have detailed contingency plans in place. But your messes happen on the spot. There's no way to prepare in advance, which makes them dangerous. Do you understand? Do you have any idea whose daughter the transfer student from Seoul is, and yet you dare to act recklessly? Remember, aside from debt collection, you're not allowed to use any other violence. Kang Hyun, if you mess around again, even if you're my niece, I won't cover for you. Do you hear me?" After Kang's uncle finished speaking, he turned to praise the big guy for his excellent work in debt collection. "Once you mature a bit more, the company's debt collection business will be handed over to you." Hearing this, the big guy was over the moon with excitement. "Don't worry, ever since I started using the system's response plans, no one's ever had any trouble. Even if I did end up in jail, it'd be worth it." He nodded so vigorously it was almost comical. "I've seen seniors on SNS showing off their luxury watches and sports cars after doing time. Just that watch alone costs 30 million. People say this is a civilized society now, but debt collection is still a lucrative business. This job isn't about making the rich cough up money, it's about squeezing it out of the poor, and it'll always be that way. I have high hopes for your future, and I've always treated you as one of the Kang family. As a Kang, don't do anything that would make us doubt you, understand? If Hyun gets into a scandal over a woman, just wait, you'll be in serious trouble." The big guy immediately shouted his loyalty. Kang's uncle said he'd called them here today just to lay down these ground rules. But Kang Hyun gave a sly smile, saying she'd thought of a new idea. "Uncle wants me to play by the rules, so I'll drag the transfer student into the rules, too. If she came from Seoul to Busan, her dad must have been demoted. We just need to find a way for her dad to owe us a loan at sky-high interest, and then turn them into slaves of the Shaft gang, isn't that right?" Meanwhile, Karma hurried home in high spirits, only to find the chief packing his bags, and he froze in his tracks. The scratches on Karma's face made her look like a calico cat. Seeing the look on his face, Karma thought maybe the bed still wasn't set up. "No, your bed and your limited edition snow crab are both ready." The calico cat immediately brightened, and pounced over to snuggle up. But the chief pushed her away at once. "How can a girl just hug a man like that?" Karma kept trying to act cute. "Really, I can't?" After being rejected, she had no idea why everyone was so dramatic, nor did she understand what it meant to be shy. The chief tried to reason with her, rubbing his temples. "But Chief Oppa, aren't we pretending to be North Korean siblings now? Isn't it normal to be a little close? Real siblings don't go around hugging each other, that's weird. Anyway, we're just colleagues on this revenge mission, so we need to keep a proper distance." Karma just stared at her gloomily. He looked up, and there was Karma, standing ramrod straight in the living room. "If we're just colleagues, then I'll just stand here businesslike." Suddenly, the chief remembered that Karma had emotional deficit disorder, antisocial personality. She rarely showed any mood swings. But lately, she'd been acting cutesy much more often. That was strange. Could all these odd behaviors be part of her plan, too? Living with Yoon Karma, this high IQ, emotionless monster, life was only going to get harder. Seeing how exhausted the chief looked, Karma took the initiative to sit down and help pack up the luggage. The chief glanced at her face, and felt a pang of tenderness in his heart. The surveillance team reported that Kang Hyun, that madwoman, wanted to ruin Karma's face. The situation had been extremely critical at the time, but it was Karma who insisted they not intervene. I always thought the Shaft gang would be the toughest to deal with, never imagined Kang Hyun would turn out to be the real lunatic. Letting a little girl carry out a revenge mission is just too dangerous. No, I have to apply to Mr. Lee to revise the revenge plan. Karma instantly saw through the chief's thoughts. Chief Oppa, you're not thinking of changing the plan, are you? Do you really think Karma can't handle such a trivial matter? Save your fake compassion, I'm planning to use this opportunity to make Dad see me differently. Don't let your cheap sympathy block the path of my ambition. The chief bowed his head and apologized. Karma stared at him for a second. I was a bit harsh just now, but I have to say, I quite like it when you worry about me, Chief Oppa. The chief, startled, let out a long sigh, got up, and went out to buy ointment. Karma watched the chief's figure gradually recede and thought to herself, Chief Oppa is even more naive than I thought. Maybe I can succeed faster than the original plan. Chief Oppa, you're my last insurance policy. During our time living together in Busan, I'll train you to become a slave who belongs to me alone. Meanwhile, Kang Hyun suggested turning Karma into a Shaft gang slave through debt, but her uncle vetoed it, saying caution was needed for the election. This made her very unhappy. What kind of crap election season is this? What's there to be afraid of? Before, I could get anything I wanted just by acting cute, but now, because of politics, I've become someone's watchdog. TCH, our Kang family are basically just local thugs at heart. Wouldn't it be enough to take over the biggest local company? Why wade into the dirty waters of politics? The big guy patiently explained that if the shipbuilding industry collapsed, the whole Dasu district would be doomed. The Shaft gang's business was limited, so they had to expand, and expansion meant needing public authority as a shield. Kang Hyun was still displeased. By the way, this is the place we're collecting debts from today, right? As the door opened, a middle-aged man cautiously came out to greet them. Kang Hyun said she was here for a security inspection, then turned to spot the untouched food on the table. President Zhao hurriedly stretched out his wrist to show his smart bracelet. It was fully charged before you arrived. Kang Hyun praised him at first, then her expression suddenly changed. Why have you been hanging around the police station so much lately? Did you bury gold there, or strike oil? The police in Dasu district are all the Shaft gang's protectors. Don't waste your energy. Looks like I'd better remind you, President Zhao, whether you're typing on your phone, writing notes, or using sign language, as long as the bracelet detects even a hint of abnormal signal, the entire district's surveillance system will instantly sound the alarm. And every telecom reseller in town is Shaft gang territory, there's nowhere to run. Understand? If you dare cover the wristband mic with your hand again, or linger in a surveillance blind spot for more than 10 seconds, if my phone gets another alert, it won't be as simple as a beating next time. President Zhao broke out in a cold sweat instantly, nodding over and over. After Kang Hyun finished checking his phone, she asked how much he planned to repay this month. President Zhao said business was terrible lately, so he could only pay 800,000. Kang Hyun didn't waste a single word. She smashed a bowl right into his face. He clutched his face and sobbed in pain, blood seeping down through his fingers. His cries woke his daughter. Didn't Daddy tell you not to come out? Kang Hyun stared at the father and daughter, a cruel smile suddenly curving her lips. Your daughter's so pretty. How about this? For every slap you give her, I'll knock 100,000 off your interest. What father could hit his own daughter? Kang Hyun sneered, a man who owes 170 million in interest, and you still want to play the loving father? I only borrowed 10 million. These days, every piece of trash thinks they can talk back. I'm adding another 100 million to your debt. So what's it going to be, President Zhao? Pay up 100 million more, or slap your daughter yourself. President Zhao was so furious he nearly shattered his teeth from clenching, blood and tears streaming down his face. In the end, he rushed toward his daughter. I'm sorry, sweetheart. His daughter's heart-wrenching screams echoed through the whole room. Meanwhile, Kang Hyun's eyes shone with twisted excitement. That's the look I want. I'll make Yoon Karma show that same despair. I don't need cowardly uncle's permission. Anyone who dares challenge me, none of you will get a happy ending. Just wait, Yoon Karma, your big sister will make you cry. On the other side, Park Yoon-woo thought about Karma. That transfer student, she's pretty, and her personality's great. Even when that crazy woman bullies her, she can fight back with style. Unlike me, always so timid and weak. But no matter how tough she is, she can't beat that lunatic. Kang Hyun forces people into debt just to have a toy to play with. Her uncle pretends to run a youth venture capital fund, saying he supports low-interest loans for young people, but behind the scenes it's all loan sharking, a ruthless financial crime syndicate. On paper, all the loan contracts are perfectly legal, but in reality, With those wristbands, they turned the borrower's whole family into Shaft Gang slaves, forcing them to dump every cent of those loans into Shaft Gang's gambling sites, until they lose it all. Then they use gambling debts to force you into new contracts. For every loan, you end up owing twice, once to the youth fund, once to Shaft Gang. Worse, Shaft Gang will use missed payments as an excuse to make you borrow again and again, piling on interest rates over 2,000%. Then they monitor your whole family 24/7 with wristbands and cameras, no chance of escape. Anyone targeted by Shaft Gang ends up ruined, family destroyed. But for people in my situation, there's no one who can help at all. Park Yoon-woo let out a helpless sigh, and only when he got home did he realize his grandmother was uncommonly lucid at that moment. Our Yoon-woo has suffered, hasn't he? With just one sentence, all his strength crumbled in an instant. He dropped to his knees, apologizing over and over. He felt like a useless grandson who had let his grandmother down. But she shook her head, saying she was the one who had burdened her grandson. I've never been able to give you anything, and now I've got dementia, making you suffer along with me. If only grandma had left sooner, maybe you could have escaped this hellish life. Park Yoon-woo begged her through his tears not to say things like that. Suddenly, he remembered the pliers he'd bought, and how he could use them to cut her handcuffs. But his grandmother refused, because Kang Ah-hyun had installed a camera on the doorknob. But I can't let you keep living like this, Grandma. Do you really want me to be an unfilial grandson? Being beaten like a dog in front of his grandmother, that was what true unfiliality was. Park Yoon-woo was at a loss for words. Grandma, how much do you still remember? She lowered her head, saying she remembered only bits and pieces. Even if you cut the handcuffs, I'd just find a rope and tie myself up. Don't worry. Grandma's rarely this clear-headed, let's just sit and talk for a while. They talked about karma. His grandmother joked, asking if maybe he liked that transfer student. But on her very first day at school, she'd caught Kang Ah-hyun's attention. Grandma can't help you with anything, Yoon-woo, and I'm truly sorry for that. But you must remember, the weaker you are, the more you need to help one another. If you can, do what you can for the transfer student. Park Yoon-woo agreed, a faint smile appearing on his face. But in the next second, his grandmother's gaze turned vacant again. Who are you? Why are you in my house?